On our parks, how many parks do we have at the water park?
There's the splash pad at Edgewood,
Yeah.
and then Decker's got that concrete one.
Okay,
That's the one.
that's only two. Marie wants to have one concrete.
If he brings up Eastern
Live
River,
it.
that's private property. He bought it. He bought
That's
it.
what I'm saying.
I have people in
Because
residential.
You already got the parking lot, you got the restrooms, you got the basketball.
I spent 4 hours.
It don't
with
make
one
sense
guy.
to put
He's
it
been
on.
fighting for
Yes.
20 years.
I don't know why
I had another house
gonna do it.
that the woman moved here.
She didn't tell me. I was out
She
in the
lasted
yard.
about 3 years and then she couldn't get anything accomplished after she had invested like $40,000. She left. So don't come to me
And I
about
talked
empty
to
lot
that
with a
person that
house
she talked to after.
that you bought. It was your idea, the price was your idea, everything was your idea. I don't care.
What do you say?
Okay.
I just have to.
It's hard to get. That's usually I come by there last week.
Todd,
I know once.
while you're over here, do you know what's going on with the Dutch? Are we knocking that down or what? There's a big hole in the roof. Like
Eventually
it's,
it's going to have to come down.
yeah.
I don't know where we're at. I will have to look into that.
Okay. I know, but I got questions about it. Just because it's it's vacant. If there's kids, it's, exactly. Yeah. So if kids are messing around and they go in there, it's not safe. Like it needs to come down. Oh, I'm so happy to see a list.
College students, there's no
Yeah.
way there. I go by there, I seen a woman and 2 kids there once. There's nothing
Benton.
there. They don't
That's
even
good.
come
That
over.
needed done. Wilbur, yep.
Oh, you're talking about, looking, yeah, I know. what you're talking about.
Yeah, Raymond and Wilbur are both bad.
Don't think I've got it.
Where are you on Fairlane?
Yeah.
I had a couple.
Not that's right. Like, one place off the main road. Off the main road. Right. And actually, he would be a little bit a part of what's going on across the street. In a sense. You know what I mean? But
Right there on the side. You want to make it. It's
right.
not.
That doesn't make a difference.
For 2 years, because we haven't done this. Yeah, no more climbing. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you. We voted that way.
Yeah, but the only difference is these aren't affordable. These aren't low income. That's
Oh, great, club.
I'm trying to picture where at on Fairland.
oh, I know, we didn't cover it.
Maybe right off Hudson Run, maybe,
Oh yeah.
I am just not fond of it whatsoever.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to begin our committee meetings here in 30 seconds. Silence your cell phones or turn them off. Council members, make sure your microphones are turned on. Good. Yeah, we got this. There you go. You good now? All right. Come on, we only been away for 2 weeks. All right, good evening, everybody. Today is June 6, 2022. Today we'll be having a Committee of the Whole meeting, Barberton City Council. Before we begin the Committee of the Whole meeting, we're going to jump into committee meetings. Today we have 2 special committee meetings. and we'll start those before we do our regular committee meeting. So the first special committee meeting this evening will be City Properties, Parks, and Recreation with Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Property and Park Recreation, special meeting, today meeting June 6, 2022, at 6:07. All council members are present, and also other council members also noted. Topics of discussion, requested legislation. The letter from Mayor Just requesting legislation to apply for grant funding through the Tuscarora Park Health and Wellness Foundation for $40,000. See attached letter. Did everybody get that letter? Any remarks or questions? Anything about that?
It's just to add on to the projects that we have at Edgewood, Tusk, and Brightenstein to refurbish the courts.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Can we get a motion for that, please?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Heide?
I'll second that.
Mr. Fry, second. Take a vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. All right, thank you. And since this is a special meeting, there will be no discussion, miscellaneous discussion. So a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Second, Mr. Heide. And first, Mr. Fry. And we adjourn today, sir, at 6:08. That was passed.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. The next special committee meeting will be City Utilities with Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities is being called to order for a special meeting, June 6, 2022, at 6:08 p.m. We are in council chambers. We have a request for legislation from Mr. Shreve, Service Director, requesting an ordinance to enter into a 15-year lease agreement with the state of Ohio through the Department of Natural Resources for a canal land lease through the Ohio and Erie Canal System situated in the city of Barberton. We have the attached letter, and emergency wording is requested. This is due to the 40-year lease having expired, and we need to continue with the lease. There's no new work. This is strictly renewal of a lease to use their land. Is there any questions? Do I have a motion to call for this? Mrs. Fry?
A motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. And again, this is a special, so there'll be no other discussion. So we, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
And we are adjourned at 6:09.
Thank you, Mrs. Coburn. Next up is Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to bring to order the Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee. It is 6:10. All committee members are here. Me as chair, Mrs. Bailey, and Mr. Griffin, and council members as noted, and guests as noted on my sheet. Topics of discussion. We have a letter from Mr. Michael Teodecki, PE City Engineer, requesting legislation to authorize the mayor to enter into contract with Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the improvement of Worcester Road / State Street intersection, PID 108370. Now, this is a two-part project. So the first part of this project, they summed it together, ODOT did, and it's the reconstruct the concrete pavement at Worcester Road, State Street intersection, starting on State Street from Hiram Street East to the State Route 619 bridge over the railroad and along Worcester Road from Ashland Court to East Hiram Street. And this includes replacement of a 1,000 feet of water line along Worcester Road North. That's all in part one. Part two of the same project, the project will close Wunderlich Avenue extend Holmes Avenue from 3rd Street to Wunderlich Avenue, and relocate a pedestrian crossing on West Hopkinton / 2nd Street Southwest to the Wunderlich-Hopkinton Avenue intersection. And we're going to ask for emergency wording. This is something that needs to, the resolution needs to be signed and sent to the state so they can start on these two projects, which is one project, but it's two parts. Do I have any questions from the committee? No? All right. Any questions from the body? No? All right. Anybody in the audience? No?
Just real quick, our city engineer is the one that is submitted that, correct? The new engineer?
Yes, that's what I said, a letter from Mr.
So I would like to thank everybody in here, and the mayor is not in here, because we finally got a city engineer to actually see this stuff. That's awesome.
Okay. Do I have a motion to call for this?
So moved.
Mr. Shorter? I'll second that. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Second piece of legislation is a letter from the mayor requesting amending Chapter 1024.01 pavement requirements for various classifications under Chapter 1024 street classifications and pavement of the codified ordinances, providing the city the flexibility by adopting best practice design standards. And this is emergency wording. This is about our classification in our development code from 1963. And in order to be uniformed with AMETS and with let me tell you, Ohio Department of Transportation, we need to change our classifications, like major streets, secondary street, class 1 street, to be uniform with AMETS and Odot. And that's what this is. Now, this will have to be, because it's a development code change, this will have to go to the Planning Commission, and they will be meeting on June 15th. So this piece of legislation will have 2 readings on it, and then we can go from there. So we have to wait until they meet and get their approval. Mayor would like their recommendation on this. Like I said, it was old from 1963, the way we said major streets, and I think we've had discussion about primary streets and secondary streets and that. So this will be a uniform. So do I have any questions from the committee? I talk pretty fast, so I don't know. No? From council, any questions? Mr. Greer?
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, this is moving best practices and standards also on construction of the type of material? Or
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Pavement requirements, yes.
Pavement.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to call for this? Mrs. Bailey, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Griffin, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I have one more piece of legislation. It's a late legislation that was approved by our law director, and this is from Mr. Shreve, our service director, asking for legislation to enter into contract with Parent Asphalt and Concrete Parent for the asphalt paving portion of the 2022 street resurfacing program. Parent was selected through the public bid process and has received the recommendation of our engineering consultant, GPD. We're asking emergency legislation on this, so of course, so we can start paving, we can get all the paperwork that's necessary. And because this is a late piece of legislation, the committee has to invoke Rule 702 to suspend Rule 302. Do I have a motion to suspend the rule?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I believe there was 2 bids. Is this right, Mr. Shreve? There was 2 bids received?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
Parent Asphalt Company and Barberton paving were the only 2 that we received bid from.
And I believe Perrin was awarded the bid last year. And everybody has their list. I'm hoping everybody has their list. Okay. Are there any questions from the committee in regards to this? Mrs.?
I'm not in your committee. I just had
Oh, okay.
a question.
Okay, go ahead.
For Mr. Shreve. Do you know which, where the alleyways are that are on the list?
I looked at so many different roads, that I don't off the top of my head.
Okay. No worries. I had received, a call about one, so I was just wondering if that was
Both of
on the
them
list.
are in the fourth ward, both of them are downtown. Both of them are on the west side downtown. I do know that, but I don't remember exactly which ones they are.
Okay.
Well, we have a total of 17 streets this year and 2 alleys, somewhere in Barberton. So, all right, do I have another question?
I was just wondering.
Erica, did you know?
It's not in the
No, Mr. Greer.
Mr. Greer?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Yes, I know.
This is, again, is for Mr. Shreve. With the estimates coming in so close to one another, is there a reason we chose Perrin over the other one? Like, is there different material uses?
There isn't. So I mean, the thing is it's lowest and best. Perrin has a good history. They're a great company. We've had good luck with them. So there's no reason for us to go with the lowest bid and award the contract to the lowest bid.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Heidig,
Thank you,
go
Mr.
ahead.
Shreve.
Thank you, Chair. Director, will they be using chip seal at all on anything this
We are
year?
not doing any chip seal this year. The entire paving program was bid as asphalt. So all these roads will be asphalt roadways.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council members or committee? No? Anybody from the body?
If GPD is the.
Wait a minute, I have to address you. Mr. Risley, go ahead.
If GPD is the engineer behind this, how do we not have a list of this? I mean, no one can tell us, you guys are about to vote on this, and not one person can tell us, how do I get that list?
Will it be published this
There's
week in the
more people
paper?
in here that are asking that question. So you guys have a list of stuff that's getting done and we don't.
Okay.
So this is a list of the streets that are being done?
It will be published. We always publish the streets as soon as council approves the ordinance, then we publish it in the paper. It has to be approved before we publish it, Mr. Risley. So, do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, miscellaneous discussion, I have none. I'm just glad that we've got this and we can get started here in the next, few weeks and start seeing some improvement with the streets. Does anybody have any miscellaneous? Mr. Greer?
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if there was any more thought about the fall bids? Any more feedback on the fall bid process?
Well, just a little bit that I can say, and I'm not even sure. If you're comparing Barberton to Norton, they get theirs through their property taxes. So they pretty much know ahead of time, 6 months ahead of time, how much money they have to spend on their streets. Ours isn't. Ours is issue 8, so it's a little bit different. That's what I've been told, and by a very reliable source. So that's why we don't go out in the fall, because we don't have our budget passed. We don't have that information. We don't assess property taxes for street repaving, or for anything for that fact. That's why.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Bailey, second.
A second.
And we are adjourned at 6:20. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Next committee is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Bailey.
One moment, I'm going to go out.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call to order the Committee of Environmental Health and Social Services. Today is Monday, June 6th. It is 6:21 p.m. We're in Council Chambers. All committee members are present, which are myself, Mr. Jaber and Ms. Angela. All other council members are present as well, and all others are as noted on my sheet. We have no new topics for requested legislation or pending legislation. Is there any miscellaneous discussion? Yes.
Mosquito season, any update from MAD?
Yes, I will have updates next time I come. I actually requested a printout. I could not physically be at their last meeting, so I have that on a printout that I'll send out.
Thank you.
Very good.
Anything else? Anything from the body? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned at 6:23 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Next up is planning, annexation, and codes. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call the Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee meeting to order. It is Monday, June 6, 2022, 6:23 p.m. here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which is myself as chair, Mrs. Angeloff, Mr. Jaber, and President Greer. All other council members are also present, and any guests will be noted on my sheet. I have several requests for legislation this evening. The first being a letter from Michael Teodecki, city engineer, requesting legislation to revise the citywide grass cut policy. Emergency wording is requested, and there is a letter attached. Does anybody have any questions about this piece of legislation? Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you, Chair. For the update, I see that there was a lot striked out and a lot rewritten the same. Can you provide just a gist of what was changed? That wasn't just one strikeout or a number, it was kind of like rewritten.
Right.
Why was it changed? Was it just?
I'm gonna go ahead and pass that along to Mr. Teodecki, if that's okay.
That's fine. We wanted to make it a little clearer of the intent of the grass cutting and how it's practiced with how we go out and post, why we post, what it's good for. We believe we cleaned up the language so it's much more understandable with what it's accomplishing and how we go about enforcing and how it gets pulled into being assessed to the owner. So I think there's a lot more clarity. We looked at the amount of mow time last year, the equipment that was used, and what was actually charged back to. So we rounded off to the initial, $400 based on last year's compilation of all the billing that did go out for the simplest of the lots and so forth. So some of that we cleaned up so it's easier to track, bill, and take care of. So just a lot more clarity with how we're posting. We also put in there that we're going to, at the beginning of each season, put an ad in the newspaper to remind everybody of what the policy is and how we're going to enforce it so we don't catch anybody off guard during the mow season. So that was a little bit more transparency at the beginning of the program, how we're proceeding with the program. Is that clarified?
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, one of the additions, it says any property owner who violates the provisions of this chapter will be given one notice per growing season, and the city will be authorized to respond to additional violations without additional written notice being given. So does that mean if you receive one in May, and then again in August, if your yard is terrible, instead of getting a notice, you'll just be fined if the city has to come cut it for you?
That is correct. We won't continue to post and go back and re-notify you additional times.
Okay.
Well, that should save a lot of time.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Okay, are there any other questions? Mr. Jaber.
How can we find the residents, if we have our own problem with the city lots? There's a lot of city-owned lots that need cut. I mean, they're already past 8, 12 inches long. How can we enforce this on them? We're not enforcing it on ourselves.
Well, we are. We're responsible for our lots, and we will be there, and we will cut that grass. Plain and simple, which is what we would expect out of the homeowner. They're there every day, or the property owner. They should upkeep theirs just like, I mean, ours is on the schedule. If we can not have to maintain so many of these, we would be more on top of our own stuff.
This is why I brought up before, us selling our city lots, residential lots. I'm still waiting for Mr. Hunt with that list. Am I correct? He told me April 11th we'll start working on that. It's already almost July. Next week will be almost in July, 4 weeks, so we're still behind on that. I want to see a list of vacant lots you're getting rid of, because your service guys, they're working hard. You guys only got 13, 14 of them, and they're tired. They don't want to keep going back to the city lots. I hear this from them. I see them daily, and they're getting tired of going back to the city lots. They want to get rid of them. They don't want to go back to the lots. It takes time away from the parks. It takes more time from the streets to get the potholes. I mean, it drags it on for other parks. So I myself will not be okay with this until we start getting rid of the city lots that Mr. Hunt, you said you'll work on them and get a new employee. And did.
I had a meeting today with the assistant planning director. We are working on this. We have a list prepared.
But we started talking about this in January, February, March now. You told me April. I mean, it's June, we haven't even touched it yet.
Respectfully, Councilman, we've been down to 2 staff members, so just trying to pull our own weight.
And with this, the change in the ordinance that we're looking at, we're not rewriting, or we are rewriting, but we're not changing any of the dollar figures. The dollar figures are still the same.
Right.
What we have done is we've standardized the procedure on top of rewriting the ordinance to clarify and to be transparent. We've also created a standard operating procedure that we use in-house from start to finish. Property maintenance inspector goes out. They know when they see a lot, I have to do step A, B, and C. And then once step A, B, and C are done, now I send it to the street department. Now the street department, our service, is going to take care of A, B, and C in that order. So we've created a process that is going to help also standardize and keep things moving smoother, so that we can alleviate some of the, oh, well, did I go to this lot that day or that lot that day? So if we can clarify, be efficient, then we can try to attack them more.
Yeah, we can attack them more, but we're still not doing our city lots though. We're behind our city lots because our lots are the same as some of the residents whose yards are 8, 10 inches, 12 inches long. Am I right? I'm not trying to put down the work.
I'm not going to disagree with you. No, I'm not going to say that every one of our city lots is mowed at pristine 3 inches. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do understand, and we are responsible for our lot, just like the homeowner is responsible for upkeep on theirs.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions regarding this piece of legislation? Oh, Mrs. Muller.
I think that you might be confusing 2 issues. I think that your point is valid, and that we might have lots that need mowed and aren't kept up to the standard that you would like it to. The problem is, the reason for that is because we're too busy mowing lots that aren't owned by us. And the reason why we're too busy mowing lots that don't belong to us is because the procedure that is currently in place is too burdensome. And so the ordinance that's before council right now is to streamline the process. And by streamlining the process, it will hopefully make it more fluid and allow our inspectors to not be out constantly searching for those properties, and will allow that process to go a little more smoothly. And so hopefully that process will go more smoothly and will not require our inspectors out looking for grass. and will allow the service department to do that a little more smoothly and hopefully devote more time to our city-owned properties. However, I am in agreement with you that if we could unload some city-owned properties, that would be more helpful as well. So I think that there's two problems, and this is a solution to part of that problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Very well put.
Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to call for this, please?
I will make a motion.
Mrs. Angeloff, and a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Greer? Everyone in favor?
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Does that carry?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, next up, if it's okay with President Greer, we have Doug Weintraub here with his team to talk about the proposed development at Trewson Farm. And the next pieces of legislation that I have are all in reference to that. So I'll quickly go over that, and then if he would like to explain things, maybe present, oh, Mr. Hunt.
If I could introduce the project, and then I'll turn it over to Doug.
Perfect. Okay. So what we've got on the agenda here tonight is we've got a letter from our planning director, Trevor Hunt, to request an ordinance to create the Trewson Farm Community Reinvestment Area, or CRA, and as well as a letter from Mr. Hunt requesting an ordinance to approve the planned unit development for that property. A request to rezone 2070 West Turkey Foot Lake Road from I-1 Light Industrial to RM18 Residential Multifamily. And the last, to create a TIF for this project as well. So we'll talk more details about that, but I thought it might be beneficial to first have them present about this project. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Councilwoman Thompson. As mentioned, there's 4 pieces of legislation we want to introduce tonight before City Council, all involving the Trewson Lake Farm Development, which is located at 2070 West Turkey Foot Lake Road. 2 of the items have come before Planning Commission previously. We've been involved with the developer, Doug Weintraub, and PMC since late last fall, 2021. There was a public Planning Commission meeting in December, a subsequent meeting in February, and the last public Planning Commission meeting for the rezoning and preliminary plan unit development approval came on April 20th, followed by a City Council public hearing on April 25th. Doug and team looked at this site and I believe exercised the right to purchase the property back last fall, and the city had marketed this site for nearly over 20 years. You may remember back in 2011, this site was actually rezoned as previously stated to light industrial. So we're revisiting this 11 years later, and we're recommending, Planning Commission is recommending a rezoning to residential at this location. So again, 120 acres. Previous attempts to redevelop this parcel have failed, and we're here before us today to listen to the latest development proposal. Here, I'll shortly turn it over to Doug and team, but the developer is willing to take a risk. You know, as is any developer is in the city, they all assume risk. So you're here to listen to what he's requesting before council and consider all the facts and taking into account what his development entails. So largely just speaking from what's being proposed, it's 150 market rate rental units and then 56 single family homes that would be proposed here. No mixed use development. Going from a industrial to a residential, this would be considered a downzoning. It is a planned unit development because there's some exceptions they're seeking within the development code. And you'll note from the legislation that was introduced, a planned unit development isn't to make exceptions for a developer, but it actually sets the bar higher for them to meet certain expectations. So there are some amenities that wouldn't be typically called out for in a development that Doug and team are proposing here tonight before us. So just briefly reviewing the two zoning questions. The planned unit development was presented at Planning Commission April 20th and recommended by Planning Commission for approval pending 2 items. We're further into the due diligence stage here, but things seem to be moving smoothly in that regard. So it was a conditional approval for the planned unit development, and it was a unanimous approval for the rezoning with no conditions tied to that. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Doug and team so they can talk about the incentives on the table.
Could you real quick remind me what those conditions were?
So I'll just read from the sheet here. On April 20th, 2022, Planning Commission respectfully recommended to City Council the conditional approval of a planned unit development for parcels 74.00278 and 74.00217 based on the applicant complying with the following. Number 1, developer will develop a plan to stipulate quality of overall construction, materials, and styles of single-family homes. Developer document to be submitted to and approved by the Barberton Planning Director before the final approval will be granted. And that largely lies within the homeowners association or the HOA agreement. And 2, full answers in writing to any open questions on the planned unit development technical review committee's minutes. And that's city staff that is part of the planned unit development technical review committee. Consists of a number of department heads. And that's from their March 29th, 2022 meeting. Said committee sign-off is required before final approval is to be granted. And that was for preliminary plan unit development approval. It will still need to come back before Planning Commission for final plan unit development approval.
Okay.
But council this is your touch point, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a slide deck that we passed out which talks about some of the things I'm going to talk about today. And this is pretty similar to some of the information that we started last December in the presentation that we did. But the first page basically identifies the site, talks about, as Trevor mentioned, the 120 acres. The I-1 zoning change that we're reflecting on. The fact that this development is part of the master plan was identified as a housing development many years ago, probably over 20 years ago. And as Trevor mentioned, it's gone back and forth between agriculture and industrial, and now we're back to housing, which I think is probably ultimately the best use of the property. There's a picture here for those who have not seen the site to show you the natural layout of the site. And you can see how it's conducive to a development similar to what we've identified in this sheet. The surrounding areas to the west are all wetlands, which obviously allows for us to allow for the trees to remain and the foliage to remain as is. Our proposal is 150 multifamily rental horizontal cluster homes, as we refer to them, with 56 individual single-family homes to be designed by homeowners who choose their builder. So we're not restricting as far as who can build homes in the site, but we will, per the HOA, restrict relative to the types of material and the design aspect of the homes that would be approved based on the HOA. There'll be walking trails, as you'll see in some of the pictures that we'll walk through. The canopies will remain as far as the trees are concerned because they're part of the wetlands and the outskirts of this property. We do now have 2 ways in, off of Frisbee and off of Turkey Foot, with the top part on Turkey Foot being the single-family homes, the other part being the horizontal units. That's on page 5. On page 6, and page 7 are some samples of some of the landscaping that we plan. So it's not just a sterile drop-in with apartments and houses, but obviously there's some thought that's gone into the landscaping as well to be complementary to the area and to the project. On page 8 and page 9 are some samples that Pride One has provided us with of the units that we look to build. These are 2-bedroom, 2-bath units, about 1,200 square feet. They have 2-car garages. On the first rental type, this is the Canterbury and the Windsor. And then the other type is approximately 1,400 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and an office space as far as, and 2-car garages as well. So you can see some samples there. The next sheet on page 10 is just a sample of some of the work that's been done by Pride One in their Wilcox Meadows project, which is in Twinsburg, and I do believe that some folks on the Planning Commission did visit or drove by some of those addresses. As far as some ideas relative to housing, these are some of the inspirations that we've used. There was some questions relative to ranches. You know, it's up to the homeowner and based on the HOA relative to the types of homes that would be present in this development. That's really the presentation. I guess we may have some questions relative to the incentive plans or other questions about the project, and we're happy to kind of walk through. I'll have Nora come up and we can address them together.
Thank you.
Chair.
Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Chair. With this development, have you gotten the elevation levels highest and lowest from Turkey Foot to the back?
Highest and lowest.
The highest and lowest elevations of these parcels. I'm talking from West Turkey Foot Road to the bottom.
Obviously, there's a gradual drop.
Right. Do you have those elevation numbers?
I don't have them with me, no, I don't have them handy.
Okay. That was one question, and this is actually the third time I've asked that one. My second question is, what was the original project? Because the original, if I remember correctly, was not 150 rentals. Am I remembering wrong?
It's always been 150
It always has?
rentals,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Yeah,
It's just the access point onto First B was not there originally, and Planning Commission, plus our safety forces said that's not gonna work.
Yeah, the major change there was to allow for a formal street access off of Frisbee.
That's nice.
But I'll make sure that we get those elevation levels.
Thank you.
That will still be a private street in that section, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I have some questions as well. This one's actually for Mr. Shreve. I know that the pump station would be constructed by you guys and then will eventually be turned over to the city. I know that we were waiting on documentation from CTI engineers. Have you received that yet?
I don't know that the study papers have been actually turned in. I mean, we were looking at eliminating some of the length of the force main, but I mean, that's all in design after there's some approvals that need to happen in front of
Gotcha.
getting to that point, to be honest with you.
Okay. Thank you. Another, which I'm sure kind of goes hand in hand with Mr. Heidick's, is the stormwater retention issues. I know that you've been working with the city to come up with solutions for that, and I wanted to thank you, for working with them on that. I am a little concerned about South Barberton. I know they already have stormwater issues, but at this point, with all of the work that you guys have put into it, are you able to confidently say that this will not make matters worse for them?
I don't think it will change anything. In fact, it'll probably improve it, just given the standards that are out there and the fact that we have retention ponds. And we have been working with the city to try to coordinate some of that stormwater relative to the work that's being done on Van Buren and how to get that water over to the Tusk.
Mm-hmm.
So we've worked diligently on that, and we'll continue to do that up until we start, construction to try to coordinate those projects.
Okay. I think that's actually, Mrs. Angela.
So bottom line, just saying that if Joseph Street floods now, it can still flood after you build. You are not taking care of all of the flooding problems there. But, so, we talk about 14th Street flooding for, 200 years, 100 years. It may improve the flooding, let up some, or it may not.
I mean, I don't think it will change, anything that we're doing won't increase the amount of flooding. I think the coordination efforts between the city and what they're trying to do in South Barberton, we're hoping we'll find a way to help alleviate that. There's some of our engineers have looked at some ideas that we've passed on to the city as far as some of the paper lots and paper streets that are there that could be used as additional retention basins. But that's to be determined based on cost and opportunity, but there's some things that can be done. But our project won't add to any of those floodings.
Because that's the question, more flooding, more flooding. No, if it always flood, if a particular area or street always flood, it's not the allotment's responsibility to not make it flood.
Yeah, we're gonna have retention ponds, and so we'll withhold that water, and it'll slowly bleed either through the wetlands
Right.
or through Mother Nature.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had one more question. I actually had a resident ask me, and I apologize if you've answered it before. The rentals, are those ADA compliant?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to say for certain, so.
Everything has to be.
Go ahead.
It was brought up that you could go in and do this allotment in 5 years, sell it to AMHA, and it become low-income housing. That has never been your thought process, right? I mean, you've never wanted it
Well,
to
these
be
are-
low income.
These are gonna be market rate apartments that are gonna be from $1,500 and up. So, that's not our intention with this project. And the other parts are single-family homes, so.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Heidick, I know you had a question.
He just answered it.
Oh,
I
she
was gonna
answered it?
ask
Okay.
The going rate, so.
Gotcha, Mr.
1,500 and
Jaber.
up answered that question.
Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Ms. Thompson. This is Ward 3. Mr. Griffin, have you had any residents or anybody concerns who are against this or for this?
The only answers I have, questions, is people are for it because it needs developed. This is going to open up the whole south end of town. And I may have said this before. I moved out there over 70 years ago. Probably more, a lot of you wasn't here. Over 70 years ago. We didn't have water. We didn't have sewage. We didn't have gas. All we had was electric. Okay? That area has been neglected all those times. I can attest, Mrs. Angeloff lives up the street from me. Now, we're going to dump, or the idea is to dump over $5 million in the South Van Buren sidewalks and curbs. Okay, so you're going to enhance that whole area. People right now are fixing up their houses. Some people have moved because they don't want to do it. Rentals, they moved. But it's looking better. So now you're going to have the Trewson Farms up there. You're going to open up the whole south end of Barberton to development that wasn't there before. So there's no need for us to sit here and not say, you're not going to do this, you don't want it to happen or whatever. Because this is good for the city and it's good for the people that live there. Because I lived there, I know. I had to go to the public school to have an indoor toilet.
Yes.
Now, okay? Now, that's the truth. Mrs. Angela.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I have to agree, being an employee of the city and living here my whole entire life, and my in-laws lived there too. And, when we ended up getting some ARP money, the first thing that came to my mind, and I had said it on city council, Van Buren. we're told for years and years we're landlocked. This is a door that has been shut for many, many, many years on that side of town. We're going to open up that door. We're going to have that full improvement. We're going to have this allotment that I haven't had any negativity with that. They want to know where it's at. Well, I want to drive through it. Well, it's private property. You know, I can't tell you can go on that. You're going to get caught by the police. You know, it's private property. It's kind of a scuttle of, that's kind of exciting. It will bring people in if you're not a Barberton resident and you live in, just say you live in, you know, Portage Lakes and you're going to buy a house, you're a Barberton resident, you know. Our census have gone down. We're down 10,000 people in this town, if not more, 10, 12,000. I think this is an opportunity that area, and I'm just saying that side of town has been neglected for a long, 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 long time. And I think this is going to open that door. We have Russell Avenue dump. We've got some land down there. You just don't know, you know, the endless opportunities with federal grants and with money coming in and that type thing. I know all this, the CRA, and I know the PUD, and I know all this stuff, the TIF, but you have to look at the whole picture. You have to look 15 years down the line. I don't know what it's going to look like. You know, I don't know if Mr. Weintraub's going to be able to sell every lot and have, you know, it completely full. Hopefully he will. And but I think that's going to open up New Franklin, Clinton, Portage Lakes. And there's a lot of whispering going on about, you know, gee, I want to get away from that. I want to get into walking trails and I want to get into certain areas. So, and it may improve our population, might bring that back up. And so all the stuff I've read, I've memorized, I was on planning for 4 years. I think this is something council has to really look at and see the future. Whether you're sitting in the seat in the future or not, it's the future of this town. And I'm thrilled that Mr. Weintraub is looking at that opportunity, and that the mayor used the $5 million of the ARP money to do that on Van Buren. That's a huge plus to the city. And I'm not changing my mind. I'm not talking anybody in it or out of it, but you have to look at the overall picture. The overall picture.
Thank you. President?
Mrs. Miller had her hand up while the...
Oh, Mrs. Miller?
What is the average time on the market of a single-family home in the city of Barberton? Does anybody know?
If you talk to the realtors 4 or 5 days.
It depends on where it is, Ms. Miller. How you doing today?
What do you mean the average?
How long
It's
it's
pretty
up for sale.
interesting because
Yeah, a couple
my name is
days.
Kevin Hanks,
Yes.
and I've built several houses up Oak Ridge right now. So I kind of had a general question about the traffic flow pattern.
Well,
And like
can
how-
I finish? Can I finish?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ms. Miller.
So if the market price on that is, I think you said $200,000 to $300,000, so that would be probably in the third ward, another part of the third ward. So what would the average time on the market of a house in that neighborhood be?
Well, across the street in Austin Estates, I think there's maybe 2 houses for sale.
Right.
Those houses are going,
Like in a couple days?
Days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Days, if not
So,
overnight.
And are there any $1,500 a month rentals in Barberton?
I don't think there's been an apartment complex established in the city of Barberton in 40 years.
Right, so I'm curious if a house stays on the market for only a couple days in a neighborhood that's a half a mile away, why wouldn't the demand for those kind of houses be in that neighborhood? And rather than 150 rentals at a price that's never been in Barberton, why wouldn't we want to build a bunch of $350,000 homes that sell in 2 days?
Well, you know, our proposal is to build a combination of those types of homes.
But it's really not a combination, there's 3 to 1, right? 3 to 1 rentals to houses, right?
There was a house that took over 120 days to sell at $250,000. It sat on 5 acres and it was approximately a 2,000 square foot home. They were side by side. They were originally asking $475,000 for them. Then they finally split them and sold both of those houses on 619, which touches that property. So why are we talking about
Mr.
how fast the house will sell?
Mr. Isley? Sorry, Mrs. Angeloff has a question.
So your development people, they've marketed, so so they're saying 50 homes, single-family homes is enough, and 150 apartments is what's needed. Is that a study? I mean, where did you come up with that amount, or your development team? How, did they go out and market that? Is that other Twinsburg that way, or, where did you come up with 3 to 1?
Most of the developments that we've done with Ryan that he's done are mostly just apartments, okay? So we've added the homes because what we've heard from folks would be, especially across the street, Us Estates, I think there's a number of people who would like to move into ranch homes, would like to change that style, which will then free up other homes for sale in a development that doesn't have any homes for sale. So it's just the way we laid out the development based on the way the land lays out and the way the opportunity is to develop this property.
And you don't feel you'll have any problems filling in X amount of years the 150 rentals? Do you feel those will go first? Do you feel you won't have empty ones, or
I think there was a study that was just done last year, and I think the study shows that there's a need for 1,000 apartments, which I think that was stated in that study, and I think it also stated that there hasn't been any development in 40 years. So the housing stock is aged, and the need is for a younger stock, for people to be able to move into the town to take advantage of these jobs that are here. I talked to the CEO of the hospital, and he said to me that he'd like to run a shuttle down there to bring the employees in. He's got nurse needs, he's got resident needs, and they live far away. They don't live in the city of Barberton because there's no stock, no housing stock.
Okay. Thank you. Real quick, I just wanted to state, right now, we're just in the portion of council members, or I guess city employees as well, asking questions, comments, stuff like that, and then we'll open it up to the gallery after we ask our questions. Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. I got a couple things. I have a couple questions. Who's the landlord for the apartments?
Oh, we'll have an actual property manager that will manage the units.
So the manager would be the one collecting the profits, or would the developer be the one?
Well, we own the development.
Okay.
And we'll have a property manager that will manage the units.
Has there been a traffic study done for both 619 ingress and egress in the secondary?
Yeah, we have a traffic study that we're working with planning on as well, yes.
Not anything from the state, since 619 is a state route?
The state is who determines whether there'll be a light, those types of things.
Yeah.
The state determines all that.
I just know, it was mentioned before, and I know this, that intersection currently at Lockwood, 619, is a very dangerous intersection. There's been multiple accidents there, so I was just wondering if there's a traffic study done. Do you know how much, a general idea of how much traffic would be flowing outside of that secondary, in and out of that neighborhood on that?
I don't have that study in front of me, but, the primary entrance in and out is going to be off of Turkey Foot. The need for the formal secondary entrances for safety forces, and it's easy to accommodate because of that. I mean, it's not easy to accommodate. We have to go over actually a ditch to be able to do that, but we believe most of the traffic will come off of Turkey Foot.
And I'm looking at the site plan, the rentals are closer to the secondary entrance than the primary entrance, on the other side of the property.
Right. On the bottom
And they'll have to drive through the roundabout, the homes, to get to the apartments. Has there been this is for anybody in the city that may be able to answer this too as well. Has there been any studies for our safety forces, the burden, the extra, and this is going, I'm getting to a point here, as far as the CRA and the TIF, has there been any study done on our safety forces for the additional resources required to patrol, to provide fire services to this area, if, and at the same time, won't the CRA or the TIF affect our safety forces, or we essentially providing safety forces for an additional 200 homes? Our safety forces are already pretty thin. Has there been a safety force study? Taylor?
Oh,
I
I'm
guess
sorry.
I answered that question. Mrs. Doherty?
I don't know if you're speaking to the developer
No, it
or
was-
to the city, but I've not been approached, nor have I entertained the idea of, thus far, of doing a study on the safety forces and what this would mean. Certainly, it would be worthy of a little bit of study if this is going to move forward.
Thank you. And just for the record, Mrs. Doherty is the safety director for the city of Barberton. I will ask a question after everybody else goes, but I do have a little bit more inquiry about the CRA and not so much the TIF, but the CRA. So
Mr.
I'll
Jaber.
pass.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. What they're doing with the apartments, it's business. I mean, it's a great investment. You're doing this for business and you're making money. With the new apartments, it's gonna be going $1,500 and they'll be rented out fast. The market's changed, guys. It's not $800 rent no more. It's not $1,100. I'll give you an example. My brother and myself, we bought recently a house on Harrington for $30,000. We're renting for $900. We bought a house on 4th Street for I think $16,000. We were now renting it for $800. I just recently purchased a house on 3rd Street for $65,000. This is how the market's changed. I'm renting for $1,100. Personally, that $65,000 house, I wouldn't have paid $20,000 for it 2-3 years ago, but it's changed. The market has changed. So these $1,500 that he's asking for rent, it's gonna be rented out fast.
It's
It's not gonna be a problem. People are paying rent. There's a house on Yale Street, on Mr. Greer's friend, and also Mr. Reese's friend, that's $1,500. I mean, there's one on Weston going for $1,350. People are paying that in Barberton now, and that's what we want. We want them to pay higher because it brings different people into this town. So what he's doing and what his firm's doing, it's an investment. And when you sell those houses for a certain amount, you're just getting that money right there and then. You're looking for a long run. You're going to get money coming in every month for a long run. So this is good for himself. It's good for the city, and it'll bring the right people in town who will be willing to pay that $1,500 a month. And that's what we want in Barberton. We want to get rid of that $700, $600 rent. We want the $1,500, $1,400, $1,300 because it's different clientele. I see it every day. You don't want the $600, $700 people. You want the $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 people. Because they'll go downtown. They'll spend the money at Ignite. They'll go to M&M. They'll go to the movie theaters. And they'll spend money in town because they're local. Instead of going to Wobbers, instead of going to Fairlawn. So I know people want, they always say renters, 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 but it's a different time now. I mean, the money's gonna be there. I guarantee you his apartment, $1,500, will be all gone fast. I guarantee you it'll go real fast.
Yeah, I will say I've spoken to a few realtors that said, you know, there's definitely a market for it. So I'm not worried about that. And personally, I'm excited about the possibility of having some higher scale homes here in the city. I think there's not enough variety here and to be able to cater to various incomes. I think that'll be a great thing for the city and really be a great marketing tool to get more people to come in, you know, and just keep expanding and, you know, making things great here. So that's just my thought. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you. I have a question and an observation. The question, department heads, 150 multifamily rental units in this kind of allotment, are they subject to rental registration fee for every single one of them?
Yes, every
Yes.
unit would be required to register.
Right.
Okay. And my observation, and Chair, please feel free to gavel me down. The 3 years I've been on council, we have all lamented at some point or another that there are so many rentals in this city. And we have passed certain legislations to up those fees. And again, Chair, pardon my language, gavel me if you want. We've pissed off a lot of landlords. And here we are considering another 150. I'm sorry, but given the space and the scope of that area, I just don't see why it has to be a 3-to-1 ratio. I'm not a builder, I'm not a developer. I don't do that kind of homework. You guys do. So you have more information and can dissect that better than I can. But it just seems that adding that many rentals when we have already, I'm not going to swear again. So that's just my observation, and that's all I have. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, developers, for coming and entertaining questions there.
Yeah.
I got a difference.
Mrs. Fry?
Thank you. I just had a question about the rental units, because you really can't see by looking at the types, how many are connected together, or are they freestanding?
I think they're in groups.
It looks like groups, like 2s and 3s, or...
Yeah, the buildings are various sizes, so I can't really give you a definitive, like what the average is. Maybe it's 8 to 10 in clusters like that.
Okay,
It's just how the design works out.
all right, thank you.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind kind of explaining the need for both the CRA and the TIF, that would be greatly appreciated.
So, I'm with Nora Walsh with PMC. We're the financial consultant for the project. So we're requesting a 15-year, 100% CRA tax abatement, and then a non-school TIF in the years 16 through 30, the out years. So it's an unprecedented time in the construction world right now with material and labor costs skyrocketing. And so that's what the CRA tax abatement would help to offset those construction costs for the property owners as well as the development team. As you know, these single-family homes will be targeted towards empty nesters at fixed incomes and first-time home owners. So that would really help with offsetting those costs. In terms of the TIF, the non-school TIF, those revenues will go towards the infrastructure costs, which we've also have seen increasing significantly. And those would be the non-school revenues. So the school district would still be receiving their share of taxes during that period.
Okay,
Real
this,
quick.
yeah, Mr. Heidick.
Coventry School District, not Barberton, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Thank you.
Rose Acres is Coventry Schools too, and that was annexed into Barberton, so.
President Greer.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to go back to the CRA. The TIF is great for reinvesting. You still pay into the property. The CRA, do you have figures on what the estimated property value tax payments would be over, say, a year for that development?
So for the tax.
Without the CRA, I'm asking for right now.
So you're saying like the base value or the
Without a CRA in place, what would you guys pay on property taxes? Or what are you estimating? I mean, I figured you'd have that number.
Yeah, it's approximately around 550,000.
A year?
Yes.
Okay, so with the 100% CRA, what will you guys be paying annually?
So the CRA comes to about 530,000 annually, so about 20,000 in base value.
Thank you. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just making notes. Mr. Jaber.
Just again, how much are you guys investing in this project?
The investment is targeted about $40 million, $40 to $50 million.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee or other council members? Mrs. Angeloff?
I do, and I wanted to address this to Mr. Hunt. The community reinvestment area housing, is that all of Barberton? Is that the entire city?
So, no, not entirely. We do have a tax abatement. We have a CRA, a 5-year 50% for New Haven. We do have that for, so that's any new homes, they get 5 years, 50% on real property improvement. So this would be going above that.
So So that would be New Haven, and the west side, the Highland School area too, has the same 50%, 5-year abatement. Okay.
Mr. Hunt, is it standard to have this type of abatement for rental properties?
So, it's a varied approach city by city. I guess I can't answer that completely because I'm not an expert here. So, my understanding, City of Akron has carte blanche, 100% what the applicant has applied for today. 100% 15-year tax abatement for any new housing within the city. Other cities stipulate different standards. They can make a developer meet different criteria to get the incentives. They can package it differently. So it's a different ballgame out there, but this is becoming more and more of a common practice with new housing.
Thank you.
I have one last one.
Mr. Heidick?
Director Hunt, how many lots are still available in New Haven? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't, I know that the developer has a contract with Ryan Homes to sell all those. I don't know how many are actually available. I drove through there last week. There's currently probably 5 or more going up. I mean, I think the sales are going well now. So I don't get like a monthly update from the developer, but I have heard through hearsay that the development is selling very well.
Thank you. That's all I have, I swear.
You're fine. President Greer?
All right, last thing. All right, so this goes back to the safety forces study. And it's just something to think about. If anybody says that this allotment is good for the city and then does 100% CRA, it does nothing for the city for 15 years, other than bring in housing, which is great. Eventually it would.
The new residents, maybe.
What's that?
New residents.
Yeah, new residents. I mean, there is some pluses to it, right?
Pluses.
Utilities and everything. The city would, with 100%, the city would miss out on $530,000 a year in property taxes. We would be providing more services.
They will not get all $530,000.
No, that's what they pay, and then we would get back.
But you would get a percentage, so. make sure you
Correct.
clarify
Now,
what you
let me
said.
get to my point.
Yes.
They pay $20,000 in income tax,
Right.
or in property tax, and we get pennies back.
But how much would you get back in 530,000 though? It's not, you're making.
It's gonna be more than we get back with 20,000. So,
You're making the number
and it's for
big,
15 years. Now, I just want to state, I'm not against this by any means. I'm just, there's no incentive, there's no income to the city for this. This is not at 100%. However, I think, this is my personal belief, since I sit on the committee and I'm talking to you, Chair, I think this should be countered to be more relative to the current times of a 50% 5-year. We're going to have safety forces that have to go here. We don't know what that looks like yet. We're going to have more infrastructure. Have we done a water study, a sewer study to see what our infrastructure can hold outside of the development? You know, what are we going to have to spend as a city, other taxpayers, to ensure that this has adequate services? I'm completely for, I love the tax incentive. I'm a businessman. I look for tax incentives all the time. But we have to be realistic about this. This, at a 15-year, 100%, this does nothing revenue-wise for the city for 15 years. Like, we're talking a new person buys a home for $150,000 and they're paying that much in taxes. Now, I can get a figure for that by the end of council, but I just want to keep that in mind as a committee member on this, that maybe, I'm not against the CRA, I am at 100%. Maybe more realistic for 50% for 5 years, or 50% for whatever works. We haven't seen the full investment money yet. We haven't seen anything. I just don't want to move forward too fast with 100% CRA. And that's talking to you, Chair. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Dale.
Oh, sorry. I don't know who this is.
Just a quick
Mr.
question.
Jaber.
Last month, how much did we give for Barberton Tree Service tax? Do you guys remember?
It was a TIF.
It was a tip.
It's a tip.
They still pay their property taxes and do the investment. That's why I said I wasn't too concerned with the TIF itself. Yes.
This is more for the CRA.
This is a complete tax.
Mrs.
break.
Angela.
And I'm going to address this to our president. what are we getting now in taxes on that piece of property
Yeah.
for 21 years?
Well,
I mean, will we
I guess that would
$400
be
a year?
for Mr.
So
Weintraub.
it's either a win-win or it's a lose-lose. There's no medium in between. So I know 15 years is a long time, 100% is a long time, but if this doesn't go through, you're looking at 15 years getting $400 a year.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
And it doesn't. I'm gonna rebuttal. It does.
You
It-
know,
That does make sense. However,
you got to take that first step.
we're not providing fire services now to that. That thing can, we're not providing sewer. We're not providing city services. We're not spending money on it right now.
Well,
This
and
we
it's not
will.
being built right now. There's still a lot of plans.
Sure, and that's
everything.
what I'm saying. I'm cautiously 100%.
And I'm sure if you do a safety study, and we need to put a station, on that side of town, I'm sure that's something that, I'm sure nobody's going to bark about that, are they? Hiring more safety services if that's needed. It's growing. When you grow, you're going to have, you grow new grass, you're going to have to cut it. This is new allotment, we're going to have to take the safety forces and do a study on that, which I'm sure that's been discussed, and that type thing, but it is. I'm not real crazy about abatements, but on this instant, with that piece of property sitting for 21 years as an industrial, zoned I-1, and then somebody coming through and wants to improve that and have maybe new residents and coming into this town, then you almost have to say, well, in 15 years, if he says, I'm done with Barberton, I'm gonna walk away. They talk. You think you're going to get another developer in here because, they said no? And I think we have to look at that. We have to look that we haven't received anything on that for 21 years.
It was 2011 when
Yeah,
the business
2011.
park, yeah.
So, still, $400, I mean, that's not, whatever.
Yeah. Mrs. Bailey?
Okay, from 2011, just for my own information, from 2011 till today, there has been no interest in making it anything.
Nope.
Correct, it's just been there. Okay, then from 2011 to when? Like, when the 2011, industrial park came about, how long before that has it
It was
just been?
farmland.
Yeah.
Forever.
It was a farm.
So-
Mhm.
okay.
Trewson Farm.
And was it an active farm before 2011?
Yes.
It was, okay.
It was leased.
I was gonna
believe.
say, I don't know how
It was,
active,
it was
yeah.
leased to somebody that did farming on it.
Okay. I was just
Not
curious.
business, so just-
Not a bit, so it's
No.
always been. Yes.
Mhm.
BCBC
Agriculture
owned that
before.
property
Before.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I believe it was agriculture before it became, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee or council members? Mr. Jaber?
Final statement, thank you. Again, I understand where Mr. Greer is coming from, but I'm following Mrs. Angeloff on this one. I mean, it's been sitting there for years, guys. And if we don't approve it for him, for his company, nobody's coming knocking on the door. I mean,
It's bad business.
it just, we need to do something. And we gotta take it, I mean, everything's going up, we're losing money at other places too in the city. I mean, I wanna see it, and I wanna see the money coming in, but if we let this gentleman go, nobody's gonna come. And he owns the property. He can sit on that forever. He can say, you know what, screw Barberton. I'll have it sit here, I'll have my kids get their four-wheelers out there and just have a good time, go fishing. I mean, realistically, he can say that to us right now, and say, okay, when you close the chapter, I won't sell it, I'll sit on it and just pay real estate taxes. I mean, he's not gonna lose money. I mean, he's trying to invest money with the city, $40 million. And for him to pay real estate taxes, that's probably penny change to him, he don't care. At the end of the day, it's business, and I see him want to invest in the city. If not, he'll just sit there vacant, you'll see his kids riding four-wheelers all there all day. At the end of the day, I mean, so let's see what we can do with this gentleman and give him that 15 years. And I understand that 530,000 sounds like a big number, but we're not getting that. I mean, hopefully we'll get the numbers, exact numbers from that from later on, but we gotta take this, guys, and it'll bring higher people, the $1,500 rent, and it'll bring those different clientele. We don't want the $600 people in the city of Barberton. I mean, they don't take care of cities like the $1,500 people will, because they'll pay it, and they get the money, they have good jobs. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else from council? Okay, I'm going to open it up for the gallery if you have any questions. I'll go with you first.
My name is George Fisk. I'm superintendent of Coventry Local Schools. I don't mean to violate
Thank
all
you.
the information of this resolution from the Coventry Local School District Board of Education. So, Mr. President, members of City Council, I approach you today with a request that the proposed CRA for the Barberton Turkey Cliff development be tabled to allow time for collaborative, open, and honest discussion about the unintended impact the proposed real property tax exemptions will have on the Coventry Local School District. Over the past decade, the Coventry Local School District has worked diligently with our community to correct and overcome many financial issues. This work culminated in the May 2021 with the release from the oversight of the State Fiscal Commission. The proposed CRA before you has the real potential to send Coventry Local Schools spiraling financially. Based upon the size of the proposed development and hearing that is now the 150 homes, which I thought were single-family dwellings are now rentals, we would suggest that we may get a minimum of 100 to 200 students, assuming one child per building. Unfortunately, the CR crafted with no input from us will shift the financial burden of these students to the Coventry taxpayers, while the funds that should be supporting them are instead held back to improve the properties. Essentially shifting the burden of development of this property from the developer and both of our communities to just the Coventry taxpayers. I have a resolution for you from the Coventry Local School District Board of Education opposing the CRA as currently crafted by your city's administration. As a district, we see the regional economic and housing benefits of this development. As a council, we understand that, and as a council that understands the importance of local control. I watched your May 23rd council meeting, and during the mayor's report, he had an extensive part where he talked about local control and being able to self-govern, which we do not have an opportunity to do in this situation as it's Barberton property, but Coventry Local Schools. Please be true to your own values by respecting and honoring our rights as a district to local control by allowing the opportunity to negotiate a CRA that is a win-win for both communities rather than a financial poison pill our taxpayers are forced to swallow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry, your last name was?
Fisk, F-I-S-K.
Fisk. Thank you. And I did want to say, just for the record, it would, the proposal is for 150 rental units and 56 single-family homes. So over 200 dwellings.
200 kids, assuming some empty nesters and some that are not.
Mrs. Coburn?
Did we misunderstand that? Didn't you say the schools would continue to get their portion of the tax?
The first 15 years is 100% tax abatement.
Yeah, the school gets their revenues in years 16 through 30.
So the first 15, there's nothing going to the schools. I misunderstood that. Thank you.
You had your hand up, sorry.
Yes, my name is William Young. I own the house on the bottom of Bridge Street and the property. Between this Weintraub and the city of Barberton, they have dug a ditch across my property. My property is flooded in the backyard. I went to the city of Barberton to try to get this ditch taken off my property. They flowed the water across my yard so they can build houses on the side of my yard, which they're going to have to buy some of my property. And I'm not going to go for it.
Thank you.
Chair.
Oh, Mr. President,
Can you
yeah.
get his address?
Yeah, can I get your address, please, Mr. Young?
389 Frisbee Street.
Thank you.
I've been to the city of Barberton trying to get this ditch off my property where they ran the water across my property so they can build houses on the side of my property. And they still haven't done anything about it. And maybe we're going to have a property damage lawsuit.
Thank you. Mr. Risley?
So I'm the only one out of the council members here that walked Frisbee today. Frisbee's the new entrance, or one of the entrances they wanted. You two set up here and said that there's no problem or no entrance problems to them. I knocked on every single person's door down Frisbee. The one thing that they haven't been notified is how much traffic flow is going to come out of there, which is going to be a lot. You two said that it's going to open up a traffic onto the south side. So one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to go out 619 and there's going to be no traffic on the south side of Barberton, or everybody's going to come out through the south side, which is most likely what's going to happen, because anybody knows getting on the 619 is a problem. So when I talked to every single resident but 3 on Frisbee Street today because they weren't there, you're also going to have the issue of what are you going to do infrastructurally wise, because you're going to have to widen that road that goes to there, which means you're going to take their property away from them. So when you guys sit up here and say that you've done your homework and that you've talked to someone, not one of you guys have gotten off your butts and went and talked to anyone. I personally did. I went down that entire street. I also talked to the people on the south side of that lake that completely floods out Eastern Road every day, or not every day, I shouldn't say that, but all the time. And not one of you guys have talked to those people individually either about what's gonna happen with the water retention or anything else. So, as a council, there's a lot of questions that are being had here, and they need addressed. And you need to start actually talking to your constituents and knowing what you're talking about. Because, correct me if I'm wrong.
Nobody talked to me about the water flowing through my backyard. It's flooded right now.
So
because they rerouted a ditch in my yard.
When you have the address to him, the address right next to it, her first name's Erica, I don't know what her last name is, I sincerely apologize, but she's saying that she has a first issue. I'm 100% for this housing development to go in. However, I want stuff to be corrected that needs to be there. You're giving them a 15-year abatement. I want the same thing. I own the property 100 yards right side of it. So am I going to get the same abatement on it that they're getting? No. Who's going to pay for Frisbee Street? All the people that live on Frisbee Street when all the traffic's coming out of there, and those people aren't paying on taxes? And then the third thing is this. If all these houses are going to sell so fast, there's no abatement needed. Why not sell the houses when you build the property and the infrastructure? Sell the houses as fast as you can, and then those people can immediately start paying on taxes, just like I did when I bought the 5 houses that I bought in the city of Barberton already. If I go buy a house anywhere in the city of Barberton, I pay taxes on it, and I do it immediately. If they're gonna buy a $350,000 house and it's gonna sit there that quick, then it needs to be no tax abatement. If you're so confident that they're gonna sell these houses that fast and rent out these apartments that fast, then why have the tax abatement there? You already have the income coming in as fast as you're building them, or you're not gonna sell those. I'm gonna tell you, you're probably gonna sell them. Everything in the housing market says you're gonna sell them, even with the interest rates going up. If you're gonna sell them that fast, you don't need an abatement, for any reason.
Go ahead. Can you state your name, please?
My name is Kevin Nixon. I have built 4 houses on Frisbee at this point. And I've had the luxury of having the 5-year 50% tax abatement as a marketing tool to bring people into Barberton. It's not bad, but you also have Akron over there that have development where they're offering a much larger tax abatement. I think the housing development is a great idea, but when you're taking this to a whole, I mean, I have 2 people that just purchased homes for me at the end of 2020. I wonder how they would take it if they found out that people who are spending $350,000 to get their full tax abatement, they only getting 50%. And I have 2 houses under construction right now that will be going on the market at any day. Ms. Miller asked the question of how long it'll take to sell them. We will be finding out soon. This is Kevin Glick, who built several houses right there on 619 in the new development right there. And so I don't think you don't get a tax abatement, right? And so I think it's something that we got to revisit. If you're gonna offer him a tax abatement on $350,000 houses at 100%, can we get a little love on prison?
Go ahead. State your name, please.
Hi, my name is Chris Davis, and I actually filled out a form over here, so my address and all is on that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I am the president of Coventry Local School District's Board of Education, and I just want to follow up on some comments that Mr. Fisk made. We have had a pretty horrendous time in Coventry with our financial situation. As I think Mr. Fisk says, we've clawed our way back. We were in fiscal emergency for almost 6 years, and the state was breathing down our neck that whole time. We've made a lot of cuts. We've made tremendous progress in Coventry. We're offering, again, a lot of stuff we didn't offer 3-5 years ago. And depending on the number of families, everybody wants families in their communities. We get it, 100%. We are not opposed at all. The whole school board has discussed this to development. We are dying for kids in Coventry Local School District. So we support that. We want families. We need kids. That's our job, is to educate kids. What our concern is this tax abatement. And what concerns me even more attending this meeting tonight is that the comment was made, and I'm just going to quote, "School district would still be receiving its fair share of taxes." Several members up here have commented, that they thought that meant the school district was going to get its taxes. I think that was kind of the underlying the message she was trying to convey. That is not the case. The cost of our student, to educate a student out of our general fund, we have done a really good job of narrowing that down and doing well with the school district and our educational process. 100 students is still going to cost us more than $1 million a year at our average rate. 200 students will cost us more than $2 million at our average rate. If we have no money coming in to pay that for 15 years, we're dead. We cannot afford that. We might be able to bite that for a short, like maybe a year, maybe two, but we're going to be, boom, we're going to be in the red immediately if that's the case. So I'm asking you, please, we've really had no good faith discussions with the city on any level about this tax abatement situation. And I think that's really what we're asking for. Before you approve 100% dismissal of the taxes that will kill Coventry Local School District, please talk to us first to see if we could come out to some kind of resolution that benefits you guys and keeps us going and doing what we've been trying to do now for many years. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And we look forward to hopefully talking with many representatives from this room, the mayor's office, and others to come out with a good solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys so much for coming and explaining that to us. I, too, like President Greer, when I saw the 100% for 15 years, was kind of taken back by that a little bit, especially with the rental properties. I don't see how that would benefit people who live there. It's more so for the developer's benefit. So I think that is something that definitely needs to be a discussion. And I don't know if it could be a percentage for the single-family homes and a different percentage for the rentals, if any. But I think that is something that definitely is going to require discussion. You had your hand up?
Yes, I do have several questions, at least a few. Just trying to recap and think of everything in my mind. The current zoning of that area is what?
Industrial.
It is industrial.
Mm-hmm.
And it has said vacant for how long?
21 years.
21 years? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna start getting years, I know this. If, for example, I know this is a what-if question, but has there been a traffic study done if there were to be a light industrial building put on that facility, on that property?
It never happened. Can't do a study if it never happened.
Right, so this has yet to happen, correct? This has yet to be approved by council?
Correct.
So there's no need to do a traffic study if something hasn't been approved? Because we've done the same, I have some experience with this, with, a lot of you know where I work, so, there's some new construction going on in that city, and there's been traffic studies after the funds were allocated and taxes were collected on that. So, and I do agree with Councilman Jaber that properties on Grandview, rental properties, duplexes are going for 1,000, and they're going quick.
Mm-hmm.
And families are staying there. Anywhere from medical personnel, seniors, retired, new families, what have you. And that's on Grandview Avenue, not far from this location.
Thank you.
What about the property that they're gonna destroy to build these homes? Who's gonna be reliable for that?
I'm sorry, I don't.
What about the property? I know they're gonna destroy some of my property to build these homes beside mine because it's on my lots. I heard this about the whole bottom of Frisbee Street down there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's your lot, my understanding, they would not be able to build anything on your lot.
The city already routed the water in my yard for these houses. And that was done.
The city routed the water
Yes,
for these
no.
houses? No.
Excuse me, ma'am. They put a ditch across my backyard with water flowing on it, which the ditch was off my property at first, and they moved it on my property to make sure that this lot over here is dry so they can build over here. They got a ditch bored right across my backyard, full of water right now.
Is it an easement?
Mr. Shreve.
If I could speak on this for a moment. And
Please.
I don't know the total history, but I have spoken with our stormwater engineer, Our stormwater engineer, so it is her understanding that this ditch, that Mr. Brown was?
Young.
Mr. Young, okay. Mr. Young speaks of actually became plugged, so her assumption is it became plugged. It actually created, it meandered its own way, which a natural waterway will kind of meander and it'll cut its own way through a different portion of his property. What happened then is we assumed, talking about the city, this was before I took my position, assumed that that's where that ditch always was, went out and cleaned it, not knowing that it had meandered off of the property line, and now it is in the location that it's in.
And
There has been discussion of how we can correct this, if we can correct this. A lot of times, when it comes to wetlands and areas like that, natural waterways, when they meander, that becomes their permanent spot. So we are in the process, there has been discussions on how we can address this particular waterway, but there has not been a solution that we've been able to.
You came back there with the big backhoes and stuff and dug it, why can't you reroute it? They dug it. The city of Barberton dug it.
Again, we cleaned, from my understanding is that we cleaned it out.
Wasn't done by nature, they dug it. The creek was back by the fence by Princeton Terrace. They moved it up in my yard.
Tell them that
Well, and like I said, it's something we're in the process of looking at how we
Okay.
can relocate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You already said that.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I wasn't really gonna say anything, but I am the one that bought a bunch of the lots on Spruce and built, and I'm off of 619. The last couple of years, I built 21 houses in Barberton the last 2 years. So, for whatever it's worth, but when I come up to Barberton, I'm just mentioning this to the council and this developer here, I've developed other places, other areas, Massillon, Worcester, all over, okay, some work myself. But my thoughts would be for you guys, would you consider this for this guy? I don't even know him, never spoke to him. But I want to tell you as a developer, there's a lot of money goes out, there's a lot of risk he takes. And when you buy something, just because the economy changed a little bit, things start selling real quick, doesn't mean it's always going to keep going that way. And if you got somebody out there, when I bought that allotment, things were slow. That guy was in '87, started that allotment on Spruce. I went in there and finished it all up and got it all wrapped up about, except at the end. But the difference is the economy changed a little bit, and I started doing a little bit nicer houses than the crap he was building there. And people noticed it. But what I'm saying is, if you got a developer that's wanting to do something, you need to be patting his back. Because it don't just happen. The cost is crazy right now.
It is.
It's hard to do and make money for a builder. So you need to be patting his back what you can. I don't know about the 15 years and all that kind of stuff, but you get what I'm saying. That's all it is.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, remind me your name?
Kevin Glenn.
Click, that's right. Thank you.
This time's the last thing.
Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, sir, for that statement. You're very, very true about that. And Mr. Hunt, during this whole process, did you not speak to Coventry at all? Your office did not speak to them?
So planning does not get involved in the tax abatement or tax incentive issues. So I know Mayor Judge went and hand delivered what's required by Ohio Revised Code, but no, we did not initiate any conversation.
Is there any conversation at all, sir?
So Mayor Judge and, Jennifer made an appointment with me with no topic of discussion, so I had no preparation. It was maybe the second week of May, and they basically sat down with me and said that there was going to be a 100% tax abatement for 15 years. I questioned as to whether they needed any, because typically in the situation, CRAs, according to our attorney, are not used for residential property, they're typically used for commercial properties. So this is not really a precedent that's typically used. And they approached me on that topic cold. I had no background in research, nothing to do. I reached out after that meeting, after I talked to our legal counsel, and reached back out to Mayor Judge through an email saying, I'm concerned, our board's concerned with this 100%. At the time, he was referring to it as a TIF, not as a CRA. We support the project, we'd just like to work and collaborate. His response was, I agree, we'd like to collaborate, but we don't want to get into hearsay or rumors. And that was the last interaction I had. He wouldn't give me any of the information prior to the 14 Statutorily, he has to provide that at 14 days. He would not provide it prior to 14 days so we could prepare ourselves. So I can do nothing but assume that we were trying to be caught off guard and that we were never engaged, because a substantial 100% loss for 15 years, as Mr. Davis pointed out, will break us. It'll destroy a district that's just got back on our financial feet.
Well, as a city employee and city council, I apologize that that happened to you guys in Coventry. Sir, if you would change it to 15 years, 50%, would that something that would close the deal off for you guys? Would you still be happy with that? Or, I mean, I know, I got 3 teachers and family members, and Coventry is one of them, but I hate to see them hurt like that. But also, I don't want to lose you guys as an investment you're investing in the city. Is that something you guys would think about, or you guys something you guys that would close the deal? I mean, I know I said 100% behind you, I'm 200% behind you, but just as Coventry, seeing those students coming in, we got to make sure that we don't fail them too, because they're our neighbor city. I don't want to lose you guys as an investment too, because you're investing a lot of money in this. I mean, has that something come across your guys' mind at all, or?
Just let us come to the end.
I mean, in order to do a project of this size, this capacity, the project that we propose is really as we
You
propose.
walk away, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, I would not want them to walk away. And I'd hate to see Coventry get hurt, but you guys would have to go maybe for a tax levy. I mean, Barberton has our own problems. I'm not trying to say, we're
One thing I would share back to you is that the Coventry taxpayers would be supplanting the tax money that these individuals should be paying. So these students that would come to Coventry would be getting so-called free ride, and our other Coventry taxpayers would then have to pick up that money. Knowing the demographics and the kind of the issues we've gone through in Coventry over the years, that has been one of our issues with open enrollment, why the district has condensed our use of open enrollment as a way to raise revenue, because our population wants to support just their resident students. So I think it's going to be a hard pill for our community to swallow, that they will have to pay an additional tax increase that these 200-300 families won't have to.
Mr. Fisk, I know that years ago, Barberton tried to take that land and make it our school district. Is that something that you guys would be willing to do at this point? Because I know there was we kind of had to fight you on it. We went to the state and lost. Obviously, it's still considered your school district, but if this is something that would break you, would you consider letting it go back to Barberton?
I think as we're talking long-term, 15 years from now, fortunately, I'll be retired and on the beach somewhere. At least I hope.
Is that what you do? I didn't know that.
But still looking long-term in the best interest of our taxpayers, again, you have to look at 2 different lenses here. We have the lens of the community, of the school district and our finances currently, and we have the lens of the long-term future of our district. Just like you, we are a landlocked school district as well. We're a small school district. We're small potatoes compared to big Barberton. For us to lose the eventual $35 million of evaluation, again, would negatively impact our taxpayers, because you have to think about this. Every tax levy that goes out from a school district perspective, the smaller your valuation, the more each person pays. The larger your valuation, the less each person pays. So it would be a disservice to our tax base to shrink our tax base.
I understand.
15 years from now, but we still got to think currently and in the future.
But that's the thing, if this...
I think we got to remember that economic development is not a city item. It's a regional item. So we have to work together. Barberton's not going to survive on their own. Coventry and Portage Lakes area is not going to survive on its own. We all need each other to adequately increase the economic development of our entire region.
Yeah, my point is, though, if this is going to break you, there is no 15-year. You know what I'm saying?
Full tax abatement. I mean, he's going to make a ton of money off of this in rentals. I mean, these houses are going to sell quickly. Why not take less of the tax abatement? He's watching his bottom line.
But he's saying he's not gonna do that.
When was your last tax levy? Have you passed a school levy? When was the last one?
My first year at Coventry, so I have to defer to.
I mean,
We have not passed a new levy in over 10 years, and the big issue is just what Mr. Fisk is talking about.
but it's been on the ballot and it's been voted down.
New money has, yes. Old money, we've done pretty well with renewals of old
renewals,
levies, but new money has not happened.
I just hate to see this issue drive away between our 2 cities. We work well together now. we could be collaborative. I think there's a way to come up with a compromise.
Obviously, we don't.
Unfortunately, one of the two-
You have $35 million, it's hard to walk away.
Okay, Mr. Risley, this is the last I'm going to take for this, and then we're going to
Perfect. I want to know what
move on.
Councilman is willing to say in writing that they're willing to take a $2 million loss of the Barberton City Schools. Because if he doesn't take it, we're taking it.
You gotta take care of your home base first.
So you're saying that you would
I'm
take a
not,
$2 million
don't worry about
loss?
money, I'm telling you, you gotta take care of your home base first. And our home base is the city of Barberton.
So your home base is going to take a $2 million loss to the schools.
When we take, are we taking $2 million off right now?
If he doesn't take it, yeah.
We're taking $2 million?
You just said that you would run with it.
I said, we're taking $2 million.
Your words were, if we can't negotiate on the tax.
My words is
rate,
not
we
that,
walk
my words
away.
is home base. I said, we take care of our home base.
Hold on,
Our
you
home-
stated
No, I didn't
specifically
state.
that if he was going to walk away, that you would take the deal.
Chair, I motion
So
for
that-
point of order here.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, out of order.
Okay,
There's no deal.
we're gonna move on here.
Bring it back up.
Okay, so,
Petty shit right there.
okay.
Chair, take control.
Thank you. We're going to move on here. For multiple reasons, for all four pieces of legislation related to this project, this is a huge project. I think there needs to be more discussion. There are some unanswered questions, and one thing I wanted to mention, which I did forward to all council members in addition to my committee, is that we did get the declaration of covenants, conditions, easements, and restrictions. I received this Wednesday. I'm still going through it. Our law director did not receive this at all. I forwarded that to her today and would appreciate her input, and I think we need some time to do that. So for that reason, for all four pieces of legislation requested this evening, I would like to just leave it in committee for now, if that's okay with my committee members.
Or, you don't put emergency wording on it and have 3 readings on it. That gives us enough time. Because if we want to move forward with this, the faster, because we don't want him to run away. This is $40 million that he wants to invest in the city. I'm telling you right now, he's a businessman. He can like telling us, see you guys later, and he'll find a different city, invest that money in a different place. I
understand.
Yes.
Yeah,
Zoning issues have
I'm
to
not
be-
saying I want to throw it out. I'm not against this at all. I just think that given, this is a thick, there's a lot that goes into this, and I would feel more comfortable, especially if Mrs. Miller could review that as well, take the time to do that. And I think as far as this tax abatement goes, there needs to be some discussion about that. So I'm not saying let's just get rid of it. I just want to hold it in the committee just for the time being. So, how are you, Mrs. Angela?
And I feel, it's but I feel that there will be more and more and more and more questions. I don't think we'll ever get to that bottom line. If you pull it out of committee, you have 7 weeks. You can get your answer in 7 days. And you can, this just didn't happen in January. It was last fall that Mr. Weintraub came to planning. So this isn't something new, it's something they've been talking about. I just feel, you could not put it in 2 weeks. If you pull it out, you're still going to have more questions. You're still going to have the questions that we have, and the problems that Coventry School has is going to be there whether you pull it out now or you have 3 readings on it for 7 weeks. I'm going to say 7 weeks with the third, with a.
I would rather have 9 weeks than 7 weeks. That's where I'm at. I just think
If we can
this
get
is
all-
such,
yes,
this
if
is
we're
just
satisfied
such a
with
big
that.
project. I think it's important to consider the tax, like with Coventry schools, and, I want to go through this, and I would like for Mrs. Miller to as well, and I just, what do you think, Mr. President? You're on the
Well,
committee, so.
as a committee member, I haven't made it all the way through, just even the homeowners association. I think we're finding out now that the law director even hasn't seen it yet. There's people that haven't even seen this. We're finding out that we have a local school district that would like to enter into some form of communication and compromise. I don't believe that the developer is going to walk away over the 50%. I just don't think it's going to happen. There's way too much money to be made. One, I don't believe that, but I would like to give him the ability to actually think on it instead of being put on the spot. Sit down with people.
Agreed.
So I want to compromise. right? The housing development we want, we know that.
Mhm.
Most of this is revolved around this CRA stuff. There's a lot of parties that haven't been involved, and I haven't finished this yet. Why would I vote on something I haven't read, even if it is coming out of committee?
Mhm.
Like, that's our job, to read it before it comes out.
Yeah.
So I'm fine however long you want to keep it in committee.
Thank you. And Mr. Weintraub, I can't see you from, from where I'm at, but I did want to thank you for getting this to us and for being here tonight, presenting, giving us the information. This, you know, I've been part of this project since I sat on Planning Commission and you first introduced it, but a lot of things have changed since then. And like I said, it's just such a big project, and I think we just need just a little bit more time to do some research.
Can we do the zoning change without? I mean,
I'm not comfortable with voting on a zoning change,
Okay.
but, until, because it all works together, so.
Okay.
I mean, if we change the zoning, but then the
May I-
planned unit doesn't go through, it's, you know what I mean? Mr. Heidick?
Chair, if I may, to Councilor Coburn's point, I respectfully think that the committee should pull the zoning change out to, because that does have to go 3 readings.
Mhm.
That way, the developer does know that there,
Yeah.
at least that first step would be done. Now, the developer may go back to the drawing board and say, okay, we want to change this, just this, but
It's
I
still
believe it would be very
It's-
beneficial of anything to bring the zoning out of committee. I don't sit on the committee, so I respectfully ask that. You're the chairwoman.
Thank you. That makes, I mean, that makes sense to me. Mr. Hunt?
I was just gonna say, if you do act on the zoning, I would also act on the planning development as well.
Yeah, the PUD.
Yeah, which that's part of the reason why I wanted to have extra time to go through this and have Mrs. Miller go through it as well. So that's just me. I don't think 2 weeks, if we pull it out next committee meeting, I don't think it's going to make a difference. That's just where I'm at. Yeah, that's what I said, it's not 2 weeks.
Mrs. Miller?
Yeah, Mrs. Miller.
Taylor just sent me the HOA document this morning. I have not seen that.
Mhm.
I had the TIF and the CRA documents when council got those.
Mr. Jaber.
You get these forms.
I've been working back and forth with the developer, the HOA, I probably received 2 weeks ago.
Wait, where's the communication? I mean, you're slacking. I mean, seriously, this is slowing us down. I mean, your office and the new assistant manager, because,
Sure.
yeah, you guys have to get community.
Hey,
I mean, it's getting ridiculous here. You're slowing us down. I mean, with everything. You say you're overwhelmed. Come on, now. You guys can't handle this, find a new job. Somebody else will take your job.
Chair, point of order.
point of
I
order.
don't know what that
Bring
means.
it- bring it to the customer.
Okay, Mr. Jaber.
Point of order.
All right, we're gonna
That's
move
what I
forward.
mean.
Do,
It could progressively get worse.
yeah. Okay. So as I said, all of these are related. I don't see, when it comes to the rezoning, what makes a difference, because I think, especially with the planned unit, that needs to go 3 readings as well.
Yes.
Just my opinion, so.
No, it does. 3 readings.
Well, yeah, it is going 3 readings, but, you know, I don't think it's going to make a difference if the rezoning passes before the plan unit, because they're cohesive with each other, so that's just me. So I've never not pulled anything out of committee, so,
You just go on to the next.
okay. Well, we have had quite the discussion this evening. That is it for the request for legislation. Is there any other miscellaneous discussion
Are you
not
going-
related to
Are you
this
pulling the PUD
development?
and the rezoning out
Nope.
of committee?
No. Mm-mm. Mr. Jaber.
Stark State, sale did not go through. Just let everybody know, you heard about that?
No.
Stark State did not. sale-
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, you, not when a sitting committee members talk.
Just for miscellaneous discussion.
For miscellaneous,
Yeah,
yeah, the GSA mower, is that what it's called, GSA mowers?
Oh.
That had bought the old armory.
Yeah.
It's, that building's for sale again.
Oh, they're not moving in?
No.
They put for sale sign on again.
Oh,
That's,
gosh.
He pulled out.
They had a big sign up at their place saying they were moving.
I know,
Yeah.
they have a sign on
But they-
31st Street,
they
said they
didn't-
were moving.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what happened with
Sign
that.
back up for sale.
Yeah.
We're also looking at it now, so it's.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me know. That's disappointing to hear. That was something that was really exciting about the expansion
Sure.
when it was happening, so that's unfortunate. But, okay, can I have a motion to adjourn,
I'll make
please?
the motion to adjourn.
Mrs. Angeloff? And a second?
I'll second.
President? Okay, we are adjourned at 7:56.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. For everybody that's here, thank you for the quorum today, for that. All right. Can you follow up with that, Mr. Hyde? Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mr. Hyde.
We will give it a go, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Finance and Personnel is Monday, June 6th. It is 7:56 PM in council chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Coburn, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. All others noted. Topics of discussion. We have a couple notes here or requests. The first one is a continuation, a letter from Thomas Heidick, Councilman at Large and Chairman of the Finance and Personnel Committee, requesting legislation to amend Ordinance 54-2019 to adjust the compensation of the mayor, the law director, the finance director to $109,000 each commencing in 2024 with a 2% increase or matching collective bargaining contracts, whichever is higher, yearly in perpetuity. I have requested 3 readings and no emergency language. Once again, I will not be entertaining any motions on this. However, I will entertain any discussion. I know I've talked to a couple counselors today. I will continue to hold talks to meet where we are. After reviewing the video from last week and just a couple conversations today, it seems that everybody is in agreement that the 3 positions are out of whack right now and need to be brought into more modern times. There was slight disagreements of the amounts of, not the amounts, but the amounts per position. But one thing I did not hear was the amounts themselves, which means I think we are in the ballpark of where we need to be, but there's just some tweaking, because at the end of the day, if we vote on this and we pass something unanimously, I want something that nobody's grudgingly voting yes, that somebody, we can walk out and say, not only did we put it back in line to where it needs to be, but we were confident enough to do it. So with that, does anybody from the committee have any comments? President Greer.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to thank you for all the work that you're putting into this.
Thank you. Any from the body? Councilor Coburn, I did talk to you on the phone, so, last week. I waited till you were good and medicined up there from your...
Talk to me when I didn't know what I was saying.
That's what I like to get, that's what I like to get you.
That's kind of tricky, isn't it? Eric, I have a question.
Counselor?
Are we discussing the amount again? Or is this just?
You're free to, if you like to give some input.
I just think it needs to be based off of what their salaries are now with a certain percentage of increase, so they're still in those stair steps that they're in. Whether it be 10%, 12%, or whatnot, I don't think it should be the same amount for everyone.
Right.
And thank you, Counselor, and I used this number with the data that I showed as a starting point.
Yeah,
To kickstart a conversation. Like I said, the main thing that I've seen as I review everybody's comments was, we're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We just need to tweak it to make it make sense, to be fair, and to be confident in it.
I agree with her.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yep.
Thank you, Counselor. Any more from the body? Anyone from the gallery have any comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Risley.
I've been supportive of this for years, man. You guys need to, you want to bring in new housing because you think it brings in better people, you need to kick the pay rate of those 3 individuals or 5 individuals way up, because I don't know how you can get someone to run for it. I wouldn't run for the mayor for $90,000 or $98,000 a year. You couldn't pay me to run the city for that much. That guy's has whether it's Bill Judge or anyone else, I don't know who it is. You guys need to start paying these people so that we can keep competent people around or get competent people anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Risley. Director?
This is an odd thing to be doing, but I'm confused about the percentage increase based on the stepping. Let me finish. The requirements in the charter, so statutorily or constitutionally, which would be our charter, the requirements for the position of the law director for the city of Barberton is the only one that requires an advanced degree. And in the ordinance that is right now, it's the lowest paid of the 3 elected positions. So if you percentage increase off of the current rate of pay, you would, unless if you're doing an across the board percentage increase, that would still remain the lowest paid position of the 3. And so my understanding was the reason why the proposed increase, the one that was proposed, was to try to level that issue out.
If I may, I believe when you say the percentages, you're not the suggestion you had, correct me if I'm wrong, was not a flat X dollar amount, but a flat 10, 15, or 20%. Am I correct in saying that?
If that's, then it's going against what she's saying then. She's saying that position is not paid adequately for having an advanced degree.
Right.
So maybe
Has that
she gets a
been
higher
forever
percentage.
that it's always been the lowest paid position, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Then
But-
we need to revisit
Historically-
that.
Because historically, the law director in this town has never been a full-time position.
Yeah.
So we need to
I-
revisit that.
No, I don't, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that since I've been the law director for the last 16 years, I've been a full-time law director.
My point was that our thinking needs to be revisited because we weren't thinking of it as I didn't think of it as being the lowest paid.
So it's basically that role, but like as the mayor and the finance director, it could be that 10% or whatnot added on to what they're making now. But like I think it was Eddie, the union president, her job description has changed from what it used to be.
Right.
Because he does not have an advanced degree, correct, on the old job description?
No,
No.
first of all, there's no job descriptions for the
Elected.
law director, mayor, or finance director.
Okay.
It's in the charter. The requirements are in the charter. There's no job description.
Okay.
But it was a part-time
No, it
position.
was never, it's not stated
Ever.
in the charter.
Okay.
I'm saying the way that the job was executed was that if you talk to someone like Ina who's worked here forever, she can tell you that 30 or 40 years ago, the law directors had private practices.
Okay.
But the caseload in our office was
I saw that.
probably 20% of what it is today.
I saw your office today.
Counselor?
I just need, you know what, I just want to do it very simple. Throw out the percentages. I could care about the percentages. I gave you my figure, and think the mayor, and I think it's to me, it's fair, and it will be even, and then we can get started. I said the law director, finance director, 99,000, the mayor, 109. It's already been published, the mayor gets 109. I wouldn't want to have to change that or anything of that sort. 2%, 2%, 2%. There you have your stepping stone. Then the next council can go on with that. Percentages, that's what happens, because then, one will get 33%, one will get 28%, one will get 19%. I think we just wipe the slate clean and put that figure out, and that's where we start. That's my opinion, and, I just, and it was, I can only contest back to 1989 that the law director, most of the law directors, they had a private practice, or they worked a side job. And that could be what the whole concept behind the law director. I can't place a finger on it. We went through this 4 years ago. I don't understand. I don't know why with the higher education. But throwing out the education completely, because, you know, when you go to school to be an attorney, you're not going to school to say, I want to be the law director. You know, you're going to school to be an attorney, you know, and it just so happens that, you know, you take that job. But I feel that we just need to, and I'm like Mr. Heidig, just throwing out that figure. Just bring the two up exactly the same and give the mayor more, which he is the CEO, and you know, his hours, everybody's
Or
work.
hers.
Everybody's work has increased. Everybody's jobs have increased. I mean, how many times did my job description change? You know, I mean, every time you turn around, it was changing. Or adding to that job description. So I just feel that that will get us our base for this 4 years. And then then you can maybe look at the percentages. At least they would be even, you know, in that sense, instead of saying, I got 16% and I got 19%. You know what I mean? Just make them even and start fresh.
Thank you, Counselor.
Has
Counselor?
there ever been in any of these positions like a comp analyst look at them?
Yes,
Yes.
in 2019, or was it, or 17?
Clemens and Nelson, yeah.
Was it 17 or 19? It
And they
was,
came up with like a adequate number? for what-
Director Doherty did a full analysis and presented it to the council, and at that time, the council decided to take no action on it.
I mean, I would say just from a standpoint of it making sense, other than throwing out, I mean, you had a great analysis, but it might be nice to have some sort of comp analyst look at them.
If you, Counselor, if you email Director Doherty, she could send you all the
From
information.
2019, right? It's from 2019, did you say?
Yeah, but that.
It's only 3
they-
years.
It would have been, it would have had to have been 19
It was
because,
for the last,
for the beginning of the
Oh,
term.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it's relatively recent,
Okay.
minus whatever inflation's done to the
but
country.
it went to 135,000 without even a question for all three.
Okay.
That's why I said this would be a good stepping stone for the next 4, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? As I said, I'm not entertaining a motion on this because we have 60 days to come to a consensus before it has to come out. And I think we'll get to that point where we're all in agreement. So moving on, next issue, a letter from Lisa Colish Miller, Law Director, requesting an ordinance to approve payment to Travelers Insurance in the amount of $4,294.50 that is dated prior to the purchase order for payment of the deductible on various insurance claims, emergency wording requested. Are there any comments on this? And self-explanatory on that?
I'll make a motion for that.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
The next order of business is, make sure this is right. Previous letter from Michael Teodecki, our engineer, to enter into contract for roof/HVAC repair amended. Now enter into contract with Cardinal Roofing in the amount of $305,500, emergency wearing requested. On our draft cover sheet, I'd like to point out that there is a typo that says CRS metal on that one. The agenda is correct, the draft cover sheet is not. We know that this roof repair is coming, we've been talking about it for a while. Are there any comments or questions?
It's more
Yeah.
than 50,000.
Yes.
Sure is.
Well,
Mr. President?
thanks, Chair. Just to clarify, there's actually 2 pieces of legislation that equal that one amount that we came to.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
I'll make a motion for that.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
And to President Greer's point, previous letter from Michael Teodecki, our engineer, to enter into contract for roof HVAC repair amended. Now enter into contract with CRS Metal Works in the amount of $211,832. Emergency wording is requested. That one is correct on the cover sheet. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay, over there.
Mr. President?
Is there a start date for this if it passes?
Mr. Teodecki?
As soon as it goes to Board of Control, we'll authorize them to begin and order materials. When they order materials, that's when the supplier will tell the contractor how soon the things like insulation will be delivered. We don't want to start until we're sure all the HVAC units are here and in, and the insulation, the roofing materials, because when we do a tear off, it goes pretty quickly. What will quickly happen though is the roofing contractor under emergency will come in the next couple days, and they'll go up and kind of slow the bleeding down to make sure whatever they can see that needs obviously patched, they'll do that immediately until all the materials come in when we can do the full replacement of all of it. And I'll keep council on schedule when I hear back when materials will be ordered, because we'll have a good idea once we execute the contract and they place orders. They'll get kind of a relative time frame on when it is, and I'll keep you in the loop on that.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
That's it.
Building? Instead of putting much money on miscellaneous?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a
Any other
motion for
comments?
that.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not aye.
We have 0 pending, so miscellaneous discussion, I'll open it up first to the committee. To the body. Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Can you tell council members about that meeting me, you, and the mayor had about the First Merit Building and their ideas and their thoughts about this, maybe?
We did discuss the possibility of consolidating the city to possibly the First Merit Building and leaving this building to the law, the police, and the courts. I know it's preliminary, and I know there's a lot of logistics, and I know there's a lot of things, but there could be some legs behind that. I know Judge McKinney has indicated he would be in favor of that, and something like this roof repair here, he feels confident that if the city were to move, so to speak, the court would pay for that and reimburse us. Director Flaker did say it was possible to do that. But that's kind of what, the Justice Center, I think we can all agree is not going to happen. The cost of construction nowadays, it was what, 14 million 5 years ago? That's probably what, 30 million today? Even if, and I told the mayor that even if the state capital budget gave us 20 million, we're still back where we started at 0 because of all these costs. Judge McKinney, we're blessed to have somebody like him that doesn't want a Taj Mahal like that eyesore in Stowe. But he's very confident that we could make something work. And I know there's a lot of things that need to go into studying for that First Merit Building, but it is a enticing possibility if it can. And I know that the mayor and his administration are looking into it with a serious thought, not just kicking the can, but actually taking into consideration. Mr. Risley?
You guys gonna kick that new school that's going into that building out? Because didn't we just sign?
No, different
That's the
building.
key bank.
The First Merit Building that's
First Merit.
about 3 or 4 floors, not the old Key Bank building.
I thought you guys were going, I was about to say.
I mean, believe me, if we could consolidate to that small Key Bank building, I'd be for it. That'd be a lot cheaper to run than anything else.
It was about a new building, and it's about actually taking care of the city, because everybody can agree that the jail is absolutely horrible. There's asbestos through this, and you're doing tremendous amounts of repair. You can build a building for $5 to $10 million. It's gonna be square with sheet metal on the outside. It's not gonna look pretty from the outside, but it'll be effective on the inside. Why isn't someone considering actually that? You get a brand new building that's 100% functional, but like you said, it doesn't look like the Taj Mahal, and you're moving it off the lake anyways. You already have, didn't the city eminent domain or buy the property off the guy at the corner over off by the rallies? So if you're gonna put it there, it doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal. It's gotta be effective. So I don't understand why people aren't looking at that. I mean, you could build that building for $10 to $15 million easily. It's just, again, not gonna be the Taj Mahal.
Counselor?
And Mr. Heidi, as soon as that First Merit Building went up for sale, that was my first thing. Let's make that our Justice Center, our municipal building. And the comments were, I mean, it was just talking, that what Mr. Risley said, sometimes it's cheaper to build a brand-new one than to take that building, which was commented was too big, we didn't need that big of a building or something, and the reconstruction of that would have cost more, you know, than building a new building. Well, that was a few years ago. I even have it in my notes, I can show you. So now, you know, the construction's so expensive, you know, I mean, so much higher, that maybe it would level out. But you're saying the municipal court, the law department, and the jail would stay
The
here?
police would stay here, yes.
Now, the jail would stay? I mean,
That would be a discussion with Chief Morber and Judge
Yeah.
McKinney.
Because I thought
they're more
that's the
versed in
biggest
the
problem
jail.
was our jail, you know, flooding and moisture and whatnot. But yeah, I said that with that First Merit building, that's perfect.
And with that building, unfortunately, it's not really conducive for the standards that a court needs.
yeah.
And to sever the law department from the court would be kind of backwards, because now you're jettisoning people back and forth
Yeah.
for no apparent reason.
The law department has to go where the courts are, and where's that at, you know? I mean, it's bad enough they run up and down steps all day, you know, so you don't want them running across the sidewalk and whatnot. But, yeah, I think, I always thought that. I thought the building was too big for what we need, you know, the municipal building, but, you know, maybe you could, you know, rent some offices out, but I'd like to see that be the whole thing. I like to see the jail, the law, you know, and take a floor and do that and be together, bring finance back, you know, in with us. I that's what I would like to see.
And with the
It's a lot of talk.
finance lease being going to be tied to the CPI, it's not going to be pretty for that lease on a year-to-year basis.
Right.
The mayor's, you know, we've all floated ideas. Councilor Jaber was in there with me. With extra space, we could potentially court the county to have Job and Family Services here. We could possibly court the foundation, the BCDC, to even have a whole floor that's them and the planning department, a one-stop shop for everything. There's a lot of ideas that could be used. They're going to be doing their diligence on it because it's getting to be that time.
Yeah,
And
it's a nice building with parking lot and a basement, the whole 9 yards, so, yep.
And it'd be nicer to look at.
Director Flaker's not here, but it has a drive-through, and that would satisfy his demand.
Yes, it has a drive-through. Oh, I guess that wasn't a van.
Counselor?
I just think it'd be a great idea. We can, like I said, we can bring the finance department, the planning department together, building department, and even maybe bring the parks department, get them out of the YMCA if we need to. It's got a lot of space in that building. Just, I mean, nothing set in stone or black and white, but it's all something we can think about, you know?
There's a lot of pros, and now we have to study the cons.
Right.
Counselor?
I just wanted to say that the Parks is not in the Y. They're in the Active Adult Center,
own
which is
building.
part
It
of
It just has to be
the city.
connected to the Y.
It's not in the Y.
Just like the Crystal Clinic, it's not the Y.
Yeah, they're partners.
Do I have anything else for miscellaneous discussions? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Thank you, and we are adjourned at 8:18.
Mr. President, can we take a break?
Well, I think we broke a record.
We do have a miscellaneous, we have a gentleman here.
Well,
I've
we're not done. We're adjourned.
I have
All
adjourned
right,
it.
so it's 9:18, we'll come back
It's
at,
not
or
9:18.
8:18. We'll come back at 8:30 to resume our committee of the whole meeting.
Oh my goodness. Erica!
Talk about conversation. It's like, take you here. How about you?
How are you? 18 months.
Nice man.
trying to keep ourselves close. You know, I control it. Always wants to come about, sorry. I think I just did the differently. With you not like the dark until.
Yeah.
That's definitely could have been a lot of these issues out of
Well, I realized I was the only elected official here tonight because I was sitting there. And I'll agree, I mean, that was back in, I worked here.
Yeah.
McNulty had his own law practice.
Everybody
all those
has,
guys.
I'm the only one. Listen, I'm not making $99,000 a year. Carol, that's bullshit. I haven't had a raise in 12 fucking years. 12 years. If I got the minimum raise everyone in this city has had for 12 years, I'd be making $109,000. You can give Bill 111 if you guys are fucking married and making more than me.
This is the thing, you guys, after this is done, you guys do make the extra.
I understand that, but why do I have to make $99,000? I'm the only one with a freaking advanced degree. He can have a high school diploma.
You know what, that's a mistake too.
I don't give
Charter
a
has
shit.
to
I
be-
can't fix that problem.
I'm just saying that has to be
I don't
changed,
care
too.
about that. But right now, why do I have to make $99,000 a year? I want you to answer me that.
Go ahead.
Well, I understand that, I understand it was you and her who said he had to make more than me.
Well, it was, yes,
Well,
because
okay,
anywhere that I have been.
Okay,
that
well,
has been-
explain to me why I have to make 99.
I didn't say you had to make 99.
Okay.
I didn't say that. And if you will remember, I was the only person that tried to give you a raise last time. Even though you had people, you know, saying, all right, make up whatever, nobody even came up with a plan as far as how to get you a raise.
I still don't have one 12 years later. So, I'm not making $99,000. So, you and him, if you and Nina want to make him have 111, that's fine. But that's bullshit. If I've got the same, if me and Jeremy got the same raise that everybody else got, we'd be making 109. Well, Jeremy would make more than me because Jeremy always makes more than me.
I mean, I can
All
relate
right,
to
yeah,
you,
go ahead
Lisa,
and
I mean,
relate,
you're
that's
talking
fine.
about your life.
And I will reschedule
I had the
with
same
Danny
shit
at the VFW
in
for the
all of
art.
my jobs,
Okay?
but I didn't have anybody to
All right.
go to. I don't care if I went to personnel.
Right.
That was just how it
And
was.
that's-
Okay, Carol, but you're in charge of this
I love you.
though.
I'll talk to you later.
I'm not even on finance.
You vote for it though, Carol.
Right.
Right, so
I
you
already
do
did.
have a say in this. So I'm going to someone who has a say in it. This isn't about when you were a worker, this is, you have a say in this, so I'm going to the person who does, right?
I just wanted a copy of the.
I definitely have the facts and figures that back this up, right? I'm not making shit up. So, you guys are married to him making more than Jeremy and I, then there you go. But there's no reason why I should make $99,000 a year. The people that work for me make that much. I'd be in the same position I was before.
Did you get a copy of this?
No, I didn't.
Why do you think that I am the one who can change it all? You have 9 people that are
Because I already know what he proposed. So I know that I don't have to talk to him, right?
Or statute.
Right?
Yes, but he's in agreement. He's in agreement.
Right, except that he proposed more for him. He didn't propose for me to make less than 109, did he?
We didn't go over 109. Nobody was going over 109. That's a big step to begin with.
He proposed for me to make less than 109?
Opening the conversation.
Right, well, all I saw was 109.
Right, and that was 109, 109. Okay, and that's what people are saying. Because it's never been. And in any corporation, in any business, the person that
And then
is.
give him 110.
And it's 85 degrees, then I'm ready to freeze.
This is insane. You guys are killing me. I can just go fucking leave. You guys can find another.
I could
Jacket off, I put the
leave too.
jacket on.
Believe me, this is just getting horrible.
You know, when the air conditioner went off, it's like, oh, it's finally starting to feel good, and then all of a sudden the air conditioner comes back on.
Hey, they got me an air conditioner for my office and it's not 79 degrees in there anymore. You're shaking. I think you're
You're cold?
Yeah, it's so freezing. Okay, I got my mop in here.
Hey Todd,
No.
Yes, sir.
It's Washington.
that up at the Young's place, what they do, they took that original ditch behind the house and they cut it, they made it,
Well, so,
they followed the way the water flooded.
talking with Caroline, so what she thinks happened, so again, we believe, we both honestly believe this happened a long time ago, is the ditch actually got plugged up, so it ran along the
Yeah,
property line.
right. Yeah. I went up there before his dad died, and I tried to get him to, I talked with Greg about going back there, and the old man was saying that they cleaned out, they kept it clean out, but it grew up.
Yeah, and what happened is it plugged, so then water naturally is
Follow
gonna
the-
follow path of least resistance, and so it cut its way, through his property.
Okay.
And so Caroline and I, like I said, had discussed how, or if there's a way that we can address.
Can you go back and take it the way it was? Would that work?
Well,
Huh, I know it.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, possible.
Do you want to wear my jacket? I have a lot less on than I do.
Because I know Jeff worked up there. You know Jeff. What's his last name? Black guy, worked for the city. He lived on Van Buren there. He was one of the guys that dug that out, I think. I talked to him.
Yeah, so I don't know, but this is the creek, and we think that it used to come down along this property line, which used to be a street. It's an undedicated street, and then it went this way. Well, what we think is it started plugging up probably up in here somewhere, and it just meandered its way over, and now it does cross all three of his lots. He owns all three of his lots.
Didn't it cross all of them anyway?
Well, so it didn't though. It used to come. We think that it used to come down along this property line.
Oh, I see the property line.
Yeah, so there's a line here that was the property line.
Okay.
And then we think that then it went meandered this way. So what happened, we think it plugged up and it started moving. Well, when it started moving, there's no control on it. You know? Well, then we came after it had moved, and then we ditched it out and cleaned it.
Clean it, and you thought you were doing
A good thing.
Good thing,
but
but
in
you
terms
cut across
of
it,
the
yeah.
property,
Right,
there's
right.
no way. So what Caroline and I had talked about is we can leave it there with a maintenance agreement, and
Okay.
we'll maintain it. We'll go in and we'll clean it across the property.
Right.
But so we have to have a maintenance agreement in writing.
Right.
The other thing we could do is we could look at relocating it as long as there's nothing, we're not breaking the law by moving water.
Right.
You know, so that's what we have to be careful of.
I know the old man, he told me they used to have picnics and everything all back there, you know, and then that's when it got plugged up and didn't come out there quick enough, I suppose, and unplug it the way he and I were talking about it 2-3 years ago or whatever.
It's a mess.
So now he's,
I ran out of, like, I just wrote because of all
I don't have no business, it's just if I have any committee.
and Dollar Tree
Which is at
and the craft department, and now I don't have to look for where I left it.
I've seen these guys out there.
Yeah, we'll first look at it, like,
Spread out.
and see what's all there, and then see.
These guys talk about, I seen that guy take a whole dump load of, I seen him took a dump truck load of trash and throw it on the friggin' ground.
Oh, really?
That the builder kept, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of bullshit. Excuse me. Right.
Last thing, so 60 or 100 to the building department, time allotted, refund of 40. If she's paying the permit to keep it on, to put it on the street, does the street sweeper matter since she has a permit? Good, okay, cool. That was, I forgot to ask that one.
And I think that, because I did, I brought that up too, so yeah, that
Good.
doesn't matter.
Mr. Shree, question for you. Have you noticed or heard of any more movement or anything about, Grand?
Oh, you know what?
That water issue in the driveway? Did you hear back to sewer?
So that's,
Him because it's.
Okay, I just needed to know, because I'm gonna go down and make sure, if I don't do it myself, I'll handle it.
Share.
Try to help those
Because
guys.
there's parallel.
Awesome, thank you.
He said just $100 permit. If you remove it.
I got
time that you
papers flying
say
everywhere.
you apply for it, you get 40
So much
back.
so that I don't have
And
my-
the street sweeper doesn't matter because you paid for the permit.
Okay.
But he said, no, if she puts it in the front yard, if she can fit it there, there's no permit. But she can't block the sidewalk.
Right, can't block the sidewalk, right. I've seen them in the street before.
But that's something I hate to share. We got it. And I know this is small
There we go.
things, but that just brings up another thing to look at. It's like, somebody wants to clean up our dumpster, we got work.
Gotta work out.
Because you're throwing, otherwise it's going to all the.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're trying not to do. Even
Yeah.
just trying to
They're trying to clean it
and
up.
get it.
My penalize in a way to clean them.
Yeah, when they're trying not
When they're
to.
trying not to.
Throw all that on the
Right,
curb.
right. So go ahead and do it. You only give a certain amount of time. And if they're not done in whatever day, then
Then you subtract.
right, yeah.
I'm kind of doing my tennis.
I'm charging $100 if they say we can only get $100 and if it's still there, if it's gone,
Stratford's
we'll give it back.
still pretty bad. I know, that's what I'm saying. Stratford should have been on there.
That's what you want. Right. We have
curves and
I'm gonna drive down there tonight.
For the, yeah, I got you. I thought it was like bars. All right.
Southwest.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to begin here in about 30 seconds. Please ensure your cell phones are on silent or off. Council members, ensure your microphones are on.
No, that's Southwest. That's Southwest.
We'll do this. We got this.
Are you done yet?
All right. It's been a long night. So today is Monday, June 6, 2022. It is a committee of the whole meeting. I call this meeting to order at 8:32 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, for citizens addressing council, bear with me. A lot of these people filled out these forms earlier. There's anything up, I grabbed them, sorry.
No, that's fine.
There was a stack of them over there. I'm going to go through these. If they're here, or if you're here, then it is your time. So Mr. Chris Davis, I believe he was the Coventry Local School
Yes.
District.
President of Board of
Yeah.
Education.
All right, George Fisk was also with Coventry School
That's
District.
Superintendent, yep.
He's not here for public. Nora Walsh was, I believe, the project management consultants with the developer that was here. Doug Weintraub was the developer. Mr. Paul Risley.
I'm doing it all favor, I'm not speaking.
All right. And Steve Yoke. Please step up to the microphone, the podium, announce your name, address, and the reason you're speaking to council. Know that council will not address you back.
Okay, great. My name is Steve Yoke. I'm the owner of Renew Home Exteriors. I also operate KS Yoke Enterprises, or Yoke Properties, and I own Day Real Estate. We do a lot of flipping in the Barberton community. We've probably done up 20 homes in the past 12 months. There's a lot in the ward, I think 4. We've done a lot around Lake Ann and stuff like that, buying properties, improving them, so a higher value, obviously raising taxes and stuff like that, help build the tax base. And then also, I know you guys talked about the rental registration, that prices increased. I didn't know if there'd be just thought on this, instead of increasing rental registrations across everyone, maybe looking at out-of-state investors to increase those instead of in-state investors or people that have businesses in Barberton. We do have an office at 1361 Worcester Road West, right next to the Circle K as well. So I just wanted to introduce myself as a new business owner. I grew up in Barberton area, went to St. Augustine's, so. Cool, thank you for everything, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get on with the committee reports. First up, street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets, sidewalks, and lighting met this evening at 6:10. All members of the committee were present, all council members were present, and guests as noted on my sheet. We had 3 requests for legislation. First one is a letter from Michael Teodecki, PE City Engineer, requesting legislation to authorize the mayor to enter a contract with Odot for the improvement of Worcester Road State Street intersection, PID 108370. This, as I explained, this ODOT has put 2 projects together. That is Project 1, and then Project 2 is the Wunderlich project. This was passed. The second request was from the mayor, amending Chapter 102401 pavement requirements for various classifications under Chapter 1024 street clarifications and pavement of the codified ordinance. This is to come into current, the last that this has been looked at is 1963, so we want to bring it up to how Amex grades their streets and how ODOT grades their streets, so we're going to all be uniform. We're all, instead of saying Class 1, we're all going to be unified with that. This will go 2 readings because we need the recommendation of our planning commission. So we'll have 2 readings on that, but it was pulled from the committee. And the third piece of legislation we received was from Perrin Asphalt, was from Mr. Todd Shreve, our service director. There was 2 bids received for the paving, 2022 paving contract, and we, council had to, because it was a late request, approved by the law director. We had to invoke Council Rule 7.2 to suspend Council Rule 302, which was voted for. And we have that contract to enter into contract with Mr. Perrin. And everybody has received a list of the streets from Mr. Shreve, and that too was brought out of committee and approved. We had no miscellaneous, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Next up, planning, annexation, and codes with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Code Committee met this evening at 6:23 p.m. The first request for legislation we reviewed was a letter from Michael Teodecki, City Engineer, requesting legislation to revise the citywide grass cut policy. Emergency wording is requested, and we did we voted that out onto the floor. And then we had 4 other pieces of legislation that we are holding in the committee. I don't know that I have to review each one. Okay. And there was extensive discussion. And we adjourned at 7:56 p.m. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Next up is City Utilities, Mrs. Colbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met in special meeting this evening. We had a request for legislation from Todd Shreve, Service Director, requesting an ordinance to enter into a 15-year lease agreement. This is with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for the canal land lease. Our old contract expired after 40 years, and this is what we needed to continue to move on with that. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, no, last week, Mrs. Fry was chair of my committee because I was out. We had no pending legislation then and nothing to report from that meeting, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Colbert. Public Welfare and Safety, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met on May 23rd in council chambers. All of my committee was present, as well as all council members and guests as noted. We had no new requests for legislation, but we did have the first reading on the OPBA officers contract and the lieutenants and sergeants contracts for our police officers. This is going to go 2 readings, so we will probably pass it next week. I also received some nuisance reports from the police department. I've gotten 3 of them, and I will just keep them on file. And with that, public welfare and safety will pass.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Fry. Rules, Marketing, and Development, Mr. Griffin.
Rules, Marketing, Development. We met on May 25th. All members were present, all others noted. We had no legislation, and we have nothing new to report. With that, I pass, sir.
Awesome, thank you. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Environmental Health and Social Services Committee met tonight at 6:21 p.m. All members were present, all others as noted. There is nothing new to discuss, and with that I pass.
Thank you. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties and Parks Recreation had a special meeting June 6, 2022 at 6:06. Council chambers, all members were present. We have 1 request of legislation. A letter from Mayor Judge requesting legislation to apply for grant funding through Tuscarora Park Health and Wellness Foundation for $40,000. And it passed. We had a motion, then we voted on it, passed. And we adjourned at 6:08, sir. And that would pass.
Did you have any legislation from the week prior?
I think it was in my notes. Did you hand that back to me? Is it on there?
I don't have it. You have the Edgewood splash pad.
Okay. I'll buy that on my notes. I will send it to you guys. And see if
You'll have to call it.
you have a copy of that with you by chance?
Are you asking about tonight's meeting?
No.
Last
time.
Two
Last
weeks
week.
ago.
Think I put that, hand it to you. I don't think it was in my mailbox.
That was
Oh, this thing.
The 24th.
I have it. The legislation for the splash pad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, in your mailbox? Or you have a copy of it? Oh, thank you. All right, on May 23rd, we had 1 request of legislation. Letter from Don Patterson, Director of Barberton Parks and Recreation, requesting legislation to approve the Parks Department to enter a contract with Vortex Structures International for a purchase of $69,197.35 to be used to purchase features, equipment, and installation of a new splash pad at Edgewood Park. Emergency wording was requested. And we have the mayor is ready to budget it, so it must be used for the ARPA funds. And they will start working on it in July, 2nd week of July, and it'll probably take 2 to 3 weeks. And we adjourned. Thank you very much, sir.
Awesome, thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Jaber.
much.
Last but not least, Finance Personnel, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance personnel, per usual, has met 2 weeks in a row. We have a couple pieces of legislation, excuse me, called. First off is a letter from Director Doherty requesting legislation to break the lease agreement with Summit County for the equipment that has not been used since 2017 and dispose of said property by donating it to Portage County. Then we had a letter from City Engineer Mike Zadecki requesting legislation to allow the mayor to enter into contracts to replace the roof and HVAC system on the city building with emergency wording requested, which leads us to tonight. We also had a letter from Law Director Miller requesting an ordinance to approve the payment of traveler's insurance in the amount of $4,294.50 that's dated prior to the purchase order for the payment of a deductible on various insurance claims. Emergency wording requested. We also called, these are amended from the original, from Engineer Tedeki to enter into contract for a roof HVAC repair with Cardinal Roofing, the amount of $305,500 with emergency wording. And the other half is a letter from Engineer Tedeki to enter into contract for roof HVAC repair amended to enter into contract with CRS Metalworks in the amount of $211,832. And with that, we pass.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. I have one thing. The citywide yard sale is June 9th through the 12th. That's coming up. That's all I had. Is there anything else from council members? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Is former President Bedges going to be?
He's still sponsoring it. His name's still on it.
Good. Just making sure he hasn't ran away from
Yeah,
us.
he wanted to keep it. Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things. Hopefully you guys just do your homework on this property that we want to try to keep in Barberton, see what we can do. Hopefully he's bluffing and says that he won't pull out. Hopefully he stays and we can work something out and see what happens. I still believe we need more communication. Mrs. Miller should have got that email the first day, not today, for all that, because that's the law director. And then also, I think they should have talked to Trewson one-on-one, so email or get a letter sent to the Coventry schools, that's another thing. Then also for the pay raise, I've had, since the Herald made a report on it, I didn't do a social media on it, I had almost say 11, 12 residents, customers come in, and they're all for Mrs. Miller getting a raise, but for the mayor and the finance director, they're not for it, from the residents and constituents. And I want support, the raise for the mayor, but I don't know how, like I said, the residents are gonna take it. That's a big concern for me, and I wanna make sure we get their support for future levies or taxes, and see what we're gonna do, but for Mrs. Miller, I honestly think, I said from day one, I brought it up to you, Ms. Fry and Mr. Heidick, 140, 135, that's nothing. That's what we should be, paying them easily. They do a lot of work, and they're definitely underpaid. So hopefully we can move forward with that and see what number they come up with. And if we have to give Ms. Miller more pay than the mayor, so be it. Because we still, at the end of the day, we gotta answer to our constituents and our residents and have their support for future levies. For support for our stuff. That I pass, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. Real quick, since you looked at me when you said that about the email to Mrs. Miller, I didn't know that she did not have that document, so I just wanted it to be on record. When I spoke to her today, she told me that she didn't have it, so I sent it to her today. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any other council members that would like, Mr. Heidick?
Councilor Coburn asked if we could do legislative immediately following this.
Okay. Any other council? Any other council members? Department heads? Do you guys have anything? Is anybody relaying anything from the mayor? Okay, no mayor's report? That's okay, because that just makes this next part. Ms. Coburn?
No.
That just makes the next part go a lot faster. This meeting is adjourned at 8:48 PM. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll meet you in the parking lot.
That's why I parked out front.
I don't have a car, so I can go either way.
Right?
Do you need a ride?
It is, but.
But she should look at it.
Chance.
We're not even.
Marathons.
That's just the people that.
I know, but there was